Li Mei's Sword of Destiny. Chapter 1922. The transaction went smoothly. Qin Feiyong grabbed the Qinkuan bag. The blood python also used its divine power to imprison the blood-red sword in the void in front of it. One man and one beast, as if they had obtained a treasure, couldn't close their mouths. Qin Feiyong directly put away the Qinkuan bag and looked at the blood python with a smile, quickly erased the blood contract inside and dripped blood to recognize it as the master. The blood python was stunned. That's right. I haven't dripped blood to recognize it as the master yet. It glanced at Qin Feiyong with a hint of ridicule in its eyes. He actually reminded it? Wait and see. The soul stone is not so easy to get. After dripping blood to recognize it as the master, with the terrifying power of this artifact, I can't do anything to you? The blood python sneered in its heart. From the beginning it didn't intend to give the soul stone to Qin Feiyong. Its plan was to cheat the blood-red sword first. The blood-red sword in the hands of a war god could exert such terrifying power, not to mention in the hands of a monarch god. That time, the blood-red sword had fully recovered. Even if Qin Feiyong hit again, it was full of confidence that it could make Qin Feiyong show his true form. But at the same time, Qin Feiyong also had a hint of ridicule in his eyes. One man and one beast, each with their own ulterior motives. The blood python quietly urged its divine power and poured it into the blood-red sword. But just as the divine power entered the blood-red sword, its body suddenly stiffened. What's going on? This battle sword. Why isn't it made of divine iron? This is murderous intent? Bastard, this is actually just a battle sword condensed by murderous intent. Haha. Qin Feiyong really couldn't hold it in anymore and laughed out loud. Hearing this laughter, the blood python's eyes suddenly sank, and a monstrous anger in its heart surged out uncontrollably. Do you really think it's a divine artifact? Haha. Qin Feiyong laughed so hard that he rocked back and forth. He laughed so hard that tears almost came out of his eyes. The blood python gritted its teeth and stared at Qin Feiyong, its eyes extremely hazy. The situation is actually like this. That blood-red sword was formed from a deity incantation. But this battle art is very heaven-defying. The sword it condenses is indeed very similar to a real divine weapon. Once upon a time there was a Qilin. When he first saw this blood-red sword, he thought it was a divine weapon just like you. After Qin Feiyong finished speaking with a thought, the blood-colored longsword floating in front of the blood python collapsed on the spot. The Kirin he was talking about was the blood Kirin. Crack! Looking at the dissipating blood-colored sword, a deafening sound suddenly came from the blood python's mouth. The venomous fang on the left side of its mouth had shattered because it had used too much force. Qin Feiyong was stunned. Even her poisonous fangs were shattered. How angry and how much did she hate him? However, the teasing look on his face became even more intense. He smiled comfortingly and said, "Don't be like this. My heart aches just looking at you." Bastard. The blood python was so angry that it spat out a mouthful of blood. The broken fangs mixed with blood sprayed out. Tisk tsk tsk. How pitiful. Qin Feiyong shook his head, his eyes full of sympathy. You're courting death. The blood python roared into the sky. Its terrifying aura transformed into giant waves that covered the sky and covered the earth as it surged in all directions. Crack. Boom. For a moment, the sky and earth cracked and the void was annihilated. It was like the end of the world. We'll meet again. Qin Feiyong saw that the situation was not good. He grinned at the blood python and directly entered the black tortoise world. Immediately after, he did not dare to stay for a moment. He immediately controlled the black tortoise world and flew into the depths of the mountain range. However, at this moment, a divine power barrier enveloped them. The black tortoise world was immediately trapped in the barrier. Qin Feiyong's heart sank. The reason why he immediately controlled the black tortoise world to escape was because he was worried that this would happen. Because the blood python was a divine lord. With his current cultivation level, neither the black tortoise world nor the ancient castle could forcibly break through the barrier. The situation is not good. The female fire lotus had been in the sky above the herb field. She looked at the divine power barrier outside and said. Qin Feiyong's eyes flashed and he decisively stopped the black tortoise world. Why did we stop? Shouldn't we try and see if we can forcefully break through? Fire Lotus looked at Qin Feiyang in confusion. No. If we forcefully break through now, it's the same as exposing our whereabouts. When the blood python knows that we're trapped in the barrier, it will definitely drag it out with us. I don't have time to waste with it. On the contrary, as long as we don't forcefully break through, it won't know if we're trapped or not. Because divine sense can't capture the black tortoise world. If it can't be sure if we're trapped or not, it will definitely disperse the barrier soon. Qin Feiyang said in a deep voice. Fire Lotus pondered for a while after hearing this and nodded. After hearing what you said, it's indeed the best choice for now. Outside, the blood python floated within the barrier and carefully searched this inch of space with its divine sense. But no matter how carefully it searched, it couldn't find any trace of Qin Feiyang, let alone any traces of the space divine item. Where is it? Little bastard, I don't believe that you've already escaped. Get out here. The blood python roared again and again, its hostility soaring to the sky. Whoosh! The female Fire Lotus retracted her gaze and looked at Qin Feiyang. Things don't seem to have developed in the way you think. There's no hurry. It's just a guess. Qin Feiyang smiled and didn't pay much attention to it. He directly entered the ancient castle. Young master, you're really amazing. You even dared to ignore a divine beast at the monarch god level. Zhao Tailai and the others immediately surrounded Qin Feiyang. Everyone in the ancient castle could hear the sounds outside. So even if they couldn't see what was outside, they knew what was going on. Who asked it to be stupid? Moreover, it was the one who provoked me first. Qin Feiyang smiled faintly. Where's the Qiankuan bag? Let us have a look. The white-eyed wolf looked at Qin Feiyang anxiously. Qin Feiyang took out the Qiankuan bag from his chest and threw it to the white-eyed wolf. The white-eyed wolf caught it with its claws and released its divine will to check. Yu Huang, Willow Tree, and Lei Bao also looked at the Qiankuan bag with anticipation. A moment later, the white-eyed wolf retracted its divine will, its eyes full of excitement. Wolf boss, how is it? Lei Bao asked. The white-eyed wolf smiled and said, not more, not less, exactly 10,000. Haha. I really didn't expect to meet such a fool as soon as I came to the ancient realm. He gave us such a large amount of soul stones. Lei Bao and Yu Huang also laughed excitedly. All right. Qin Feiyang waved his hand and looked at the white-eyed wolf, Willow Tree, Qin Rushuang, Lei Bao, and Yu Huang and said with a smile, hurry up and go into seclusion to refine. All right. According to the current time rules of the ancient castle, we can step into the war god level in half a day at most. Willow Tree laughed. War god? When he was in the Black Tortoise realm, he didn't even dare to think about it. That moment, the 2 men and 3 beasts each took out some soul stones and began to cultivate in seclusion. I'll put the remaining soul stones here. Qin Feiyang took the Qiankuan bag and placed it on the altar. Then he looked at Tan Tai Li, the mermaid palace master, Zhao Tailai, the blood Qilin, and the golden leopard, and said with a smile, if you want to refine, take it yourselves. Everyone nodded. Qin Feiyang then looked at Dan Wangkai and said, you haven't stepped into the false god realm yet. Put aside the matter of refining pills and focus on cultivating. Dan Wangkai was slightly stunned and shook his head. With you guys fighting, why would I cultivate? I just want to refine pills. Other than refining pills, he was not interested in anything else. That won't do. What if there are times when I need your help? Refining pills, there's still a long way to go. I don't lack this time. Moreover, in the future, when you want to refine divine level pills, you need to have the cultivation of a war god. Otherwise, when you face a divine level pill furnace and pill fire, it will be very difficult for you. Qin Feiyang said. Literature Museum. Chapter 1923. Dan Wangkai pondered for a while and nodded, all right. Then I'll reluctantly go into seclusion to cultivate for a while. Reluctantly? Qin Feiyang was a little speechless. It was unknown how many people wanted to come to his ancient castle to train. However, this fellow had an expression of reluctance on his face. Dan Wangkai smiled embarrassedly. Young master, actually, compared to cultivation, I'm more concerned about alchemy fire, alchemy furnace and mental strength. Qin Feiyang said, I've been thinking about these things. And the ancient world definitely doesn't lack alchemy fire and alchemy furnaces, so you can cultivate in peace. Thank you, young master. Dan Wangkai smiled gratefully. Qin Feiyang shook his head, walked to the altar, cut his finger, and a drop of purple gold dragon blood fell, and the iron box immediately opened. After breaking through to the war god realm, he had not read the alchemy scripture and the 6-word divine formula. He opened the iron book with anticipation. When he turned to the 5th page, a blood-red word suddenly appeared in front of his eyes. Death. That's right. On the 5th page was the word death, as if it was condensed from the blood of a demon, emitting a strong aura of death. Death? Qin Feiyang frowned. Why was it a death? And besides this death, there were no other words on the 5th page. In other words, on the 5th page there was only one death. How could this be? Qin Feiyang's frown became tighter and tighter. In front, whether it was the return formula, battle formula, kill formula, or attainment formula, they all had detailed annotations. But this page there was nothing. Wait! Suddenly, Qin Feiyang found another unusual place. At the bottom of the pages of the return formula, battle formula, kill formula, and attainment formula, there was a line of small words. For example, what cultivation level must one reach to be able to turn to the next page? But now, at the bottom of the 5th page there was no such note. No note. Did that mean that he could turn to the 6th page now? Qin Feiyang pondered for a while, tentatively grabbed the 6th page, and used a little force. Immediately, Qin Feiyang was surprised. The 6th page actually moved. In other words, the 6th page could be open now. After coming back to his senses, he immediately flipped to the 6th page with excitement. A wave of emerald green light surged out like a tide. Within this green brilliance, there was a great aura of life. The contents of the 6th page also appeared before Qin Feiyang's eyes. Life. That was right. This was the word life. Just like the 5th page, there were no other words other than the word life. Death symbol formula? Life symbol formula. Qin Feiyang looked at the two characters over and over again, his eyes full of confusion. It was common knowledge. Death, it definitely represented death. Life was definitely life. But what kind of profound meaning was hidden in these two deity arts? For a moment, Qin Feiyang was completely confused. Forget it. Let's not think too much about it for now. Let's write it down first. After all, if I can imitate a stroke, I can break through a small realm. A moment later, Qin Feiyang shook his head, raised his arm, and pressed his index finger on the first stroke of the death symbol formula. Divine power gushed out from his fingertips. However, gradually the expression on his face froze. This death symbol formula did not absorb his divine power. He quickly imitated the life symbol formula. In the end, he found that the situation was exactly the same. What's going on? This time, Qin Feiyang was completely confused. There were no notes and he couldn't imitate it. What was going on? Feiyang, what's wrong? The mermaid princess noticed the change in Qin Feiyang, stopped refining the soul stone, got up and walked to Qin Feiyang's side, and asked suspiciously, "It's too strange. In the past, the battle symbol formula, the travel symbol formula, the kill symbol formula, and the return symbol formula were all imitated. But now these two deity arts can't be imitated," Qin Feiyang said. The mermaid princess looked at the death symbol formula, then looked at the life symbol formula, and guessed, could it be that these two deity arts already need you to comprehend them yourself? Comprehend them myself? Qin Feiyang frowned. Although life and death seem very ordinary, if you think about it carefully, there seems to be endless mysteries hidden inside. In short, I feel that the death and life on this deity art should be different from what we understand, the mermaid princess said. Qin Feiyang said, after hearing what you said, it seems that there is really such a thing. Wait, didn't you say that there is some kind of law power in this world? The mermaid princess seemed to have thought of something and suddenly said, yes. For example, the law power of the ancient castle is time stop. Chang Shui's law power is time travel. For example, the law power of Mu Tianyang's blood blade is time reversal, Qin Feiyang said. The mermaid princess said, then do you think it is possible that these two words also represent some kind of law power? Qin Feiyong stared blankly for a moment. He immediately lowered his head and stared at the two large words on the page. Look, the return symbol formula, the advance symbol formula, the battle symbol formula, and the kill symbol formula. These 4 deity arts all have heaven-defying power. They can even ignore the existence of a large realm. Then, this life symbol formula and death symbol formula might have already transcended the boundary of deity arts. And the existence above deity arts, from what we know so far, should be the power of law, the mermaid princess said. Transcending the boundary of deity arts, the power of law, Qin Feiyong muttered to himself. Suddenly, he turned around and kissed the mermaid princess on the cheek. The mermaid princess was slightly stunned, and suddenly blushed and secretly scolded. What are you doing? There are so many people here. While speaking, she glanced at Tantai Li and the others. Seeing that everyone closed their eyes to refine the soul stone and did not pay attention to them, she was relieved. It is my great fortune to have you in this life. Your analysis is right. These 2 words may represent the law of life and death. Qin Feiyong was ecstatic. This is just our baseless guess. Before we get confirmation, we can't directly draw a conclusion. The mermaid princess said with a smile. Yes. After all, we don't know if there is a law of life and death in this world. But we can investigate according to this line of thought. There are many strong people in the ancient world. I think there must be a few people who know some information about the power of law. After Qin Feiyong finished speaking, he decisively closed the iron book and opened the pill scripture. The mermaid princess also looked curiously at the side. The first thing that caught their attention was a kind of pill called life pill. There were detailed notes below. Life pill had the effect of repairing the soul. As long as the soul was not shattered, it could be quickly repaired. The second kind was called God Power Pill. This pill had the effect of restoring God power. The third kind was Undead Barrier Breaking Pill. This pill could let the undead go through the baptism of the heavenly tribulation and reconstruct their human body. The fourth kind was Heavenly Dust Divine Pill. This kind of pill could temporarily increase the cultivation of living beings by a small realm. Temporarily increase the cultivation by a small realm? Seeing this, Qin Feiyong and the mermaid princess looked at each other at the same time and looked over in surprise again. After confirming again and again, they did not see wrongly. This Heavenly Dust Divine Pill did have the effect of increasing the cultivation by a small realm. However, it was different from the 9-chew Yellow Dragon Pill and the 9-turn Dragon Blood Pill. The 9-chew Yellow Dragon Pill and the 9-turn Dragon Blood Pill could permanently increase the cultivation by a small realm. But this Heavenly Dust Divine Pill was only temporary. According to the records, the effect of the Heavenly Dust Divine Pill could only last for an hour. And it could only be used by war gods. If it was a creature surpassing war god, taking the Heavenly Dust Divine Pill would have no effect. Moreover, after taking the Heavenly Dust Divine Pill, there would be a certain side effect. Within an hour after the effect of the pill passed, one would enter a weakened state. Once one entered a weakened state, no pill would be able to recover. The mermaid princess said, although there are certain side effects and a time limit, it can be considered a terrifying trump card. That's right. At a critical moment, taking this Heavenly Dust Divine Pill is enough to turn the situation around. Qin Feiyong nodded. He really didn't expect that there would be such a terrifying pill recorded in the pill scripture. The two of them continued to read. The fifth kind of pill was called the Divine Life Pill. According to the records, this Divine Life Pill had the same effect as the healing pill and could heal injuries. But the difference was that the Divine Life Pill was more comprehensive. For example, the previous healing pill could only heal the injuries of the physical body. If one's bones were broken, or if one was missing an arm or a leg, they would need the bone replenishing pill and the regeneration pill. But now it was different. With just one Divine Life Pill, all these problems could be solved. And the effect was countless times stronger than the healing pill, bone replenishing pill, and the regeneration pill. The sixth kind of pill was called the Four Symbols Limitless Pill. Looking at the Four Symbols Limitless Pill, Qin Feiyong and the mermaid princess's faces immediately crawled with ecstasy. This pill was the same as the Heavenly Dust Divine Pill. It had the effect of increasing cultivation. But the difference was that the Heavenly Dust Divine Pill was temporary, while the Four Symbols Limitless Divine Pill was permanent. In other words, The 4 symbols limitless divine pill was exactly the same as the 9-turn dragon blood pill and the 5 elements universe pill. To Qin Feiyang and the others, this was the pill that they needed the most right now. Because their current cultivation was too weak, they had to increase their cultivation as soon as possible. And this 4 symbols limitless divine pill was undoubtedly the best shortcut. Suppressing the excitement in their hearts, the two of them looked at the 7th kind of pill. Dragon Soul Primordial Spirit Pill. This Dragon Soul Primordial Spirit Pill was a pill that could break through the War God realm and open the door of potential. The mermaid princess took a deep breath and smiled. The pills in this pill scripture are really comprehensive. That's right. For me to be able to walk to this day and have today's achievements, this pill scripture has contributed greatly, Qin Feiyang said. However, when he saw the following content, Qin Feiyang's expression became rather ugly. The content was roughly, the above pills were all divine pills, and required a god-level pill furnace and pill fire, as well as a minimum of level 50 mental power to refine them. In other words, Dan Wangkai was still unable to refine these pills at the moment. He had to do it himself. But he didn't have a god-level pill furnace yet. As for the Nether Devil Flame, although it had already been raised to the 9th grade, it could only be compared to a false god. It was still a step away from a true god-level pill fire. In other words, he still needed to find 3 clusters of 9th grade pill fire before the Nether Devil Flame could truly advance to a god-level pill fire. And mental power. Qin Feiyang pondered for a moment, looked at Dan Wangkai, who was sitting cross-legged at the side and cultivating with his eyes closed, and asked, Dan Wangkai, do you have a spirit stone? Chapter 1924. Yes. Dan Wangkai opened his eyes, took out a mind stone from his Qingkuan bag, and threw it to Qin Feiyang. Qin Feiyang raised his hand and caught it. I got this mind stone from the temple's Pill Pagoda master when I was in the capital. It's several times bigger than the mind stones we used to have. No matter how strong your mind power is, it won't shatter. Dan Wangkai said. Generally speaking, mind stones had a limit. Once it reached the limit, the mind stone would shatter. Qin Feiyang nodded in realization. This mind stone was indeed bigger than the mind stones he had seen before. You can continue to cultivate, Qin Feiyang said, then turned to look at the mermaid princess, and said with a smile, guess what level my mind power has reached now? How would I know? The mermaid princess rolled her eyes at him. Actually, I don't know either. Since Dan Wangkai followed me, I rarely refined pills, so I didn't pay attention to how much my mind power had grown over the years. Qin Feiyang smiled, grabbed the mind stone, closed his eyes, and entered a state of meditation. Buzz. Soon, the mind stone began to vibrate again and again. Level 5. Level 10. Level 20. Level 30. Level 40. Every time the mind stone vibrated, the mermaid princess would silently count in her heart. Gradually, her breathing became hurried. Level 50. Level 60. Level 61. Is there such a high mind power? The more she thought about it, the more incredulous the mermaid princess became. Although she was not an alchemist, she had been in the temple for so many years and was very clear about the situation of alchemists. In the spiritual state, no, even in the entire Great Qin and the Forgotten Continent, a mind power of level 10 was considered the best among the alchemists. She had never heard of a mind power of level 50 or 60. Finally, the mind stone vibrated 66 times in a row. In other words, Qin Feiyang's current spiritual power had already reached level 66. Level 66 spiritual power. You're really a freak. The mermaid princess shook her head and smiled bitterly. Qin Feiyang put away the spiritual stone and smiled. This soul-refining art is truly amazing. I've improved so much without even realizing it. As for my level 66 spiritual force, it's already enough to refine these pills. All that's missing now is a pill flame and a pill furnace. The mermaid princess said, I'm afraid that even in the ancient world, everyone would hide a god-tier pill fire and pill furnace like treasures. There will always be a chance. Qin Feiyang smiled and once again looked at the 7 types of pills in the alchemy mantra. Regardless of whether it was the life pill or the 4 symbols limitless pill, they did not require many medicinal ingredients. Even the life divine pill only required 9 types of herbs. However, he had never even heard of these 9 medicinal herbs before. Furthermore, every medicinal ingredient needed to be at least 10,000 years old. Suddenly, he looked at the Dragon Soul Primordial Spirit pill with an astonished expression. What's wrong? The mermaid princess was suspicious. Qin Feiyong asked, help me take a look, am I seeing things? Why would the first medicinal ingredient of the Dragon Soul Primordial Spirit pill be the divine dragon's divine soul? The mermaid princess lowered her head to look and said, I didn't see wrongly. It's the divine dragon's divine soul. And it's also recorded that it must be the divine soul of a great perfection war god. I'll go. Qin Feiyong rubbed his forehead, his face full of powerlessness. Isn't this too outrageous? In other words, if he wanted to refine the Dragon Soul Primordial Spirit pill, he had to first find a real divine dragon, then kill him and take out his divine soul. The most outrageous thing was that it actually had to be a divine dragon of a great perfection war god. Divine dragon was a supreme divine beast with a noble bloodline. Even if he found a great perfection divine dragon, he wouldn't be willing to kill it, because this was simply a waste of heaven's gift. As for the Dragon Soul Primordial Spirit pill, it only needed 3 medicinal ingredients. The first was the divine dragon's divine soul. The second was a medicinal ingredient called the Dragon God Flower. The third was a medicinal ingredient called the Primordial Spirit Lotus. Qin Feiyong searched through his memories for a moment, then shook his head and said, this Dragon God Flower, Primordial Spirit Lotus, I've never heard of them before. The mermaid princess said, look at the 4 symbols infinite divine pill's medicinal ingredients again. Qin Feiyong's gaze shifted to the 4 symbols infinite divine pill, and his face twitched slightly. The 4 symbols infinite divine pill only had a total of 5 medicinal ingredients. They were azure dragon, white tiger, vermilion bird, and black tortoise, the 4 divine beasts' blood essence, as well as a medicinal ingredient called the infinite divine fruit. Azure dragon, white tiger, vermilion bird, and black tortoise, I've never seen them before, let alone ask for their blood essence. The mermaid princess said, yeah, refining these pills is as difficult as ascending to the heavens. Qin Feiyong sighed helplessly, closed the pill scripture, and closed the iron box. He looked at the mermaid princess and said with a smile, let's not think about this for now, you go and cultivate. I'll go out and see if the blood python has left. Be careful. The mermaid princess reminded. Qin Feiyong nodded, and his figure flickered, appearing above the herb field in the Devil's Land. What's the situation? The female fire lotus had been there all along. Hearing Qin Feiyong's words, the fire lotus smiled helplessly. See for yourself. Qin Feiyong raised his head and looked at the screen. In the screen the barrier had not disappeared, and the blood python was still floating inside the barrier. The fire lotus said, from the looks of it, it seems to believe that we're trapped inside the barrier. Then I'd like to see how long it can delay us. Qin Feiyong snorted and retracted his gaze, his perception covering the entire black tortoise world. Half a year passed. The living beings here had more or less settled down. Conflicts and frictions were constantly occurring. The former overlords, the Vanga League, the Fengtian Palace, the main pagoda, the Nether Hall, and the Heavenly Sun Empire, had collapsed one after another. This also made the other small forces restless. However, they did not dare to fight on a large scale. This was because when they revived in the Iron Ox Town, they already knew that the current ruler of the Black Tortoise world was Qin Feiyong. At the same time, they also knew that the Vanga League and the Fengtian Palace had collapsed. Therefore, the people of the various forces were waiting to see Qin Feiyong's attitude. If Qin Feiyong clearly stated that he would not interfere in the disputes of the Black Tortoise world, then the flames of war would definitely erupt in an instant. Of course, it was also impossible for Qin Feiyong to express this attitude. He also did not want to interfere in the disputes of the Black Tortoise world, and let nature take its course. Brother Qin, suddenly, a hoarse voice appeared in Qin Feiyong's perception. Qin Feiyong was stunned and followed the voice. Soul Sealing Valley. In the deepest part of the Soul Sealing Valley, in front of an ancient stone tower, a black shadow was floating. It's him, Qin Feiyong murmured. His eyes flashed slightly, and instantly descended in front of the black shadow. Brother Qin, you're finally here. The black shadow was extremely excited. Qin Feiyong said, what are you calling me for? The black shadow said, Brother Qin, on account of how pitiful I am, help me unlock the seal. I remember you said that you need me to give you the heart of origin to unlock the seal. Do you think I will give it to you? So, let's not talk about this matter. Qin Feiyang said indifferently. The black shadow pondered for a while and said, actually, you can also help me unlock the seal with the heart of origin. I can too? Qin Feiyang was stunned and sneered. So, you were indeed lying to me before? No. In the past, I asked you to give me the heart of origin because I didn't think of this. The black shadow hurriedly said. Didn't think of it? Qin Feiyang sneered and said, do you really think I'm a fool? Do you think I don't know your intentions? I'm already in this state, what other intentions can I have? The black shadow said aggrievedly. Do you want me to point it out for you? When I give you the heart of origin, not only can you escape, but you can also obtain the Black Tortoise realm, killing 2 birds with 1 stone. Unfortunately, although your calculations are good, you've found the wrong target. Am I so easy to ignore? Qin Feiyang sneered. I really didn't. The black shadow said anxiously. If you didn't play these tricks from the beginning, I might have already helped you unlock the seal. Unfortunately, you've touched my bottom line. I hate being used and deceived the most. Qin Feiyang said. Okay, it's my fault, it's all my fault. How about this, let me out and I'll follow you and work for you in the future. Don't be in a hurry to refuse. Although I'm sealed here, my body is not damaged at all. I can use the power of law, the black shadow said. The power of law? Qin Feiyang was stunned and looked at the black shadow in surprise. Yes, the power of law that I control is the law of fire. The black shadow said. The law of fire? Qin Feiyang frowned. Yes, it's the power of law of fire. The flames that I control can melt any divine item in this world. The black shadow said with a hint of pride in his tone. The law of fire. Qin Feiyang murmured and asked calmly, do you know the power of law very well? Of course. The black shadow nodded. Qin Feiyang said, then is there a law of life and death in this world? The law of life and death? The black shadow was stunned and said in surprise, why are you suddenly asking about this? Qin Feiyang said, just answer me. Yes. And the law of life and death is the most powerful, terrifying, and supreme law of life and death in this world. With one thought, one can control the cycle of reincarnation and create all things. Comprehending the law of life and death is equivalent to being a god of creation. The black shadow said. So powerful? Qin Feiyang was shocked. Of course. In this world today, there is only one person who has comprehended the law of life and death. The black shadow said. Who? Qin Feiyang asked. The ruler of this world, Wu Tian. The black shadow said word by word. His words were filled with fear and dread that couldn't be dispersed. Wu Tian. Qin Feiyang's eyes trembled. This person again. Wait a minute. The 6-word formula was created by Wu Tian. Could it be that Wu Tian left the words life and death in the Iron Book to remind him to comprehend the law of life and death? In other words, this Wu Tian was indeed helping him. And Chang Shui and the castle, now that he thought about it, they must have been given to him by Wu Tian. But why did the small beast and the ice dragon want to kill him? What the hell is going on? Literature Museum. Chapter 1925. The Black Shadow said suspiciously, looking at you, you seem to know Wu Tian very well? I don't even know what he looks like, how could I know him? Qin Feiyang shook his head. The Black Shadow said, so it's like that, I thought you had something to do with him. Qin Feiyang smiled bitterly. In terms of relationship, there was a little bit. Otherwise, why would this Wu Tian give him the ancient castle Chang Shui and the 6-word secret art? He even reminded him to comprehend the law of life and death? But he couldn't figure out what kind of relationship there was. Qin Feiyang took a deep breath and asked, besides the law of life and death and the law of fire, what other law of life and death are there? Many. For example, wind, fire, thunder, lightning, metal, wood, water, earth, light, darkness, time, space-time, they all belong to their own law of life. I have a few old friends who have mastered the law of time and space-time respectively. The Black Shadow said. Time, space-time. Qin Feiyang pondered for a while and said, time reversal and space-time travel, do they belong to the law of time and space-time law? That's right. It's a coincidence. I have two old friends, they respectively master the time reversal and space-time travel. The Black Shadow said. It can't be? Qin Feiyong was surprised. Could it be that the old friends that the Black Shadow mentioned were the Blood Blade and Snowflake? It shouldn't be. How could there be such a coincidence? The Black Shadow said. Their bodies are both divine weapons, one is a blood-red dagger, the other is a snowflake. I wonder how they are doing now? What? Qin Feiyong was dumbfounded, and then waved his hand. The shadow of the snowflake and the dagger appeared. Seeing this, the Black Shadow was slightly stunned and said in surprise, How do you know what they look like? Have you seen them before? Haha. Qin Feiyong raised his head and laughed. What are you laughing at? The Black Shadow was suspicious. It's really a coincidence. Not only have I seen them, but I've also fought with them. And my inner demons also cut their bodies. Qin Feiyong sneered. What? Impossible. I know their strength the best. With your current strength, let alone shattering their bodies, you can't even get close to them. The black figure said decisively. Don't overestimate yourself. Qin Feiyong coldly laughed. After which he continued, since the two of you are friends, there's even more reason for me not to release you. Why? The black figure hurriedly said. I know exactly what kind of trash they are. As for you, you're jackals of the same lair as them. That means you're not much either. Qin Feiyong snorted. It's a misunderstanding. Although we're friends, we've always been using each other. Speaking of true feelings, I don't have any at all. The Black Shadow hurriedly explained. Don't waste your breath. I won't fall for your tricks. After saying that, Qin Feiyong turned around and prepared to leave. Really? You have to believe me. If you let me out, I'm even willing to help you deal with them. The Black Shadow hurriedly stood in front of Qin Feiyong and roared. Deal with them. Qin Feiyong muttered and looked at the Black Shadow. After a while he said, I'll think about it. Thank you. The Black Shadow shed tears of gratitude. As long as he thought about it, there was still a chance. Whoosh! Qin Feiyong took a step forward and instantly disappeared without a trace. I didn't expect you to get out of here before me. You must wait for me, the black figure murmured, and also silently dispersed in the void. Returning to the sky above the herb field, Qin Feiyong looked at the screen. The blood python was still guarding outside, its body full of hostility. I'll go to the castle to cultivate first. Qin Feiyong looked at the female fire lotus and said, Go ahead. Anyway, I can't cultivate now. I'll help you guard here. When the blood python leaves, I'll call you. Fire Lotus said. Thank you. Qin Feiyong smiled and entered the castle. Time passed in a flash. 5 days passed. However, 5 years had passed in the castle. White-Eyed Wolf, Lei Bao, Qin Rushuang, Willow Tree, and Yu Huang had all reached the War God realm one after another. Bloodqilan, Zhao Tai Lai, Tan Tai Li, Chui Li, Golden Divine Leopard, and Tang Hai's cultivation had also improved. Dan Wangkai had also reached the peak of the 9-star combat emperor realm with the help of a large number of elixirs. Qin Feiyong, come out quickly. On the evening of the 5th day, the female fire lotus's voice was heard in the castle. Qin Feiyong immediately opened his eyes and appeared in the black tortoise boundary with Dan Wangkai. The blood python has just left. But the divine power boundary is still there. Fire Lotus said immediately. Qin Feiyong looked at the screen and then looked at Dan Wangkai and said, You should know the ultimacy of becoming a true god, right? Of course. Dan Wangkai nodded and smiled. Qin Feiyong said, Then you go. When you break through to become a true god, come find me in the herb field. Okay. Dan Wangkai responded and turned into a stream of light, disappearing into the vast world like lightning. Qin Feiyong also retracted his gaze and looked at the screen again. There was indeed no trace of the blood python in the boundary. Fire Lotus asked, Are you confident that you can break the boundary? I can even injure its divine body, let alone a mere barrier. Qin Feiyong smiled confidently. But then, he frowned again and did not go out for a long time. What's wrong? Fire Lotus looked at him in confusion. Qin Feiyong said, I was thinking, since the blood python has left, why didn't it remove the boundary? Is there a problem? Fire Lotus asked. Of course there is a problem. Think about it, if it really thinks that we have escaped, why would it leave this behind? The only explanation is that it is still suspicious that we are trapped here. Maybe it is pretending to leave to lure us out, Qin Feiyang said. Hulian frowned when she heard that. Qin Feiyang thought for a while and smiled. I think we should wait a little longer. Do as you wish, Fire Lotus said. Time passed quietly. The night passed, and the sun slowly rose from the horizon. At this moment, the blood python rushed out from the mountains below and entered the screen. Hulian was stunned for a moment. Then she glanced at Qin Feiyang. She didn't expect him to guess correctly. If they went out yesterday, it would be equivalent to walking into a trap. This person's mind is not simple, Fire Lotus muttered and looked at the blood python in the screen. When the blood python entered the barrier, its divine sense appeared and scanned the void with a gloomy gaze. Human brat, no matter where you hide, this emperor will not let you go. All of a sudden, it let out a roar filled with anger and flew into the depths of the mountain. The barrier also dissipated. We can go now. Qin Feiyang smiled at Fire Lotus, then controlled the Black Tortoise realm and flew away like lightning. Half a day later, the Black Tortoise realm finally crossed the mountain range and appeared above a plain. The plain was huge, full of weeds and shrubs, and there were many large and small ponds. And in those pools one could basically sense terrifying ferocious might. Obviously, there were berserk beasts hiding in the ponds. Whoosh! 2 figures, one male and one female, suddenly appeared beside one of the ponds. It was Qin Feiyang and Fire Lotus. Fire Lotus looked around and asked, Next, are you going directly to the Gua family? Or? No. Let's go somewhere else first and see if we can get soul stones, Qin Feiyang said. Soul stones? Fire Lotus was stunned and frowned. A few days ago, didn't you just swindle 10,000 soul stones? It's all used up, Qin Feiyang said. So fast? Fire Lotus was stunned. It's not like you don't know that the time inside the castle is different from outside. Although only 5 or 6 days have passed outside, 5 or 6 years have passed inside the castle. Those 10,000 soul stones have already been refined by us. Qin Feiyang smiled bitterly. Fire Lotus was stunned and shook her head helplessly. At this rate, no matter how many soul stones there are, it won't be enough for you. Yeah. If only we can get a few soul veins, Qin Feiyang said. Not enough soul veins. The castle's time rules are too abnormal. Even the production of level 9 soul veins can't keep up. Unless there are hundreds or thousands of level 9 soul veins. Or you can put them in the castle, but your castle is too small. It probably can't even fit the lowest level 1 soul veins, Fire Lotus said. Headache. Qin Feiyang rubbed his head. Let's go out first. After we go out, don't ask me anything because I've only been to the Gua family. I'm not familiar with the other places, Fire Lotus said. Okay. Qin Feiyang nodded. Just as the two were about to leave, a fierce crocodile suddenly jumped out of the pool. Its body was more than 10 meters long. Its cultivation had reached the level of a new war god. However, Fire Lotus just casually waved her hand and a wave of divine power surged. The fierce crocodile died on the spot and fell into the pool with a loud bang. Qin Feiyang's pupils shrank. Although Fire Lotus's cultivation was higher than the fierce crocodile's skin was thick and its defense was terrifying. It was even comparable to a new level wargot's defense. However, Hulian was able to kill it effortlessly just now, and he found that there wasn't a single wound on the fierce crocodile's body, nor was there a drop of blood. In other words, Fire Lotus's divine power didn't hurt the fierce crocodile's body. If it didn't hurt the body, how did the fierce crocodile die? Wait! Suddenly, his eyes focused as he looked at the divine power that was converging into Fire Lotus's body. He found that in Fire Lotus's divine power, there was an aura of death. This aura of death was like the aura of a death god, emotionless, cold, and directly attacking the soul. Fire Lotus seemed to see Qin Feiyang's doubts and explained, Because I'm a dead spirit, this isn't divine power, but the power of the dead spirit. This power of the dead spirit is a bit special. It can ignore defense, enter the mind, and directly wipe out the soul. Ignore defense, directly wipe out the soul. Qin Feiyang was shocked. No wonder he didn't see any injuries on the fierce crocodile's body. It turned out that the soul was wiped out. Such a terrifying power of the dead spirit. It seems like he had to be more careful in the future. Because this woman's identity was still a mystery. Whether she would be an enemy or a friend in the future, no one knew. At the same time, he couldn't help but think, since this power of the dead spirit could ignore defense, then could the armor formed by the battle formula block it? Chapter 1926. With doubts in his heart, Qin Feiyang walked towards the end of the plain with Fire Lotus. At the end of the plain there was a river. It was about 100 meters wide. The river flowed rapidly. On the other side of the river, there was a dense forest with vines and old trees. Soon, Qin Feiyang and Fire Lotus arrived in front of the river. There were many ferocious beasts lurking in the water, but they were not as strong as those they encountered in the mountains. Not to mention terrifying existences like the blood python. The two of them rose into the air and were about to fly across the river. However, Qin Feiyang was suddenly stunned. What's wrong? Fire Lotus stopped and turned to look at Qin Feiyang suspiciously. Qin Feiyang pondered for a while and said to Fire Lotus, I suddenly thought of something that might help you. What is it? Fire Python was suspicious. Wait a moment. Qin Feiyang smiled mysteriously and entered the ancient castle in a flash. He walked straight to the altar, opened the iron box and opened the alchemy scripture. He vaguely remembered. When he was reading the alchemy scripture, he seemed to have seen a pill called the undead barrier-breaking pill. However, he was attracted by the heavenly dust divine pill and did not pay attention to it. After opening the alchemy scripture, Qin Feiyang immediately looked for the undead barrier-breaking pill. Indeed, in the alchemy scripture there was the undead barrier-breaking pill. This pill could allow the undead to go through the baptism of the heavenly tribulation and reconstruct their human body. After reconstructing their human body, not only could they shed their undead body, they could also absorb the essence of heaven and earth to cultivate. Simply put, after taking the undead barrier-breaking pill and successfully transcending the tribulation, the undead could become a real human. As for the undead barrier-breaking pill, it required a total of 4 herbs. They were undead flower, death fruit, yin-yang wood, and extreme yang thunder fire. I've never heard of these herbs before. Qin Feiyang shook his head and smiled bitterly. He closed the alchemy scripture and pondered for a moment before leaving the ancient castle and appearing beside Fire Lotus. What's wrong? Fire Lotus was suspicious. Her expression was very gentle, and her personality was very kind. She looked like a little sister next door, and there was no threat at all. Qin Feiyang smiled. As he flew to the other side of the river, he asked, Have you ever heard of a pill called the undead barrier-breaking pill? Fire Lotus was beside Qin Feiyang. She pondered for a moment and shook her head. I don't remember. What's the use of this undead barrier-breaking pill? It's useless to us living people. But to an undead like you it means a lot. Qin Feiyang briefly explained the situation with the undead barrier-breaking pill. Really? Fire Lotus was very excited. Qin Feiyang nodded and said, And I'm thinking that if you shed your undead body, you might be able to recover your memories. Fire Lotus grabbed Qin Feiyang and begged, Qin Dage, you have to help me. The days without my memories are too painful. It's simply torture. Qin Dage. Qin Feiyang's mouth twitched. He smiled bitterly. Although I don't know your past, I can imagine that you must have lived for thousands of years, or even tens of thousands of years. Is it appropriate to call me Big Brother? Fire Lotus was stunned. She covered her mouth and laughed. I didn't expect you to be such an old-fashioned person. It's just a title. What's the matter? I'm old-fashioned? Qin Feiyang was speechless. He shook his head and said, Well, it's up to you. But your last sentence made me a little sad. The days without memories are very painful. It's torture. You thought of Lin Yi? Fire Lotus asked. Yeah. She should be the same as you. I really hope that she can quickly recover her memories and stop suffering. Qin Feiyang sighed. You are really a good man. Fire Lotus smiled. A good man? Qin Feiyang was taken aback. He smiled helplessly. Why do I feel that it's a bit ironic? This sentence is from the bottom of my heart. Although I don't know much about you, with your talent and strength, I believe that there must be many women who like you. But in your heart there is only one woman, the mermaid princess from beginning to end. If you are not a good man, then who is? Fire Lotus said. Don't praise me like that. I will fly to the sky. Qin Feiyang touched his nose, a little embarrassed. Fire Lotus joked, then fly, because no matter how high you fly, I can drag you down. You are also quite interesting. I really hope that when you recover your memories, we will not become enemies. Qin Feiyang smiled. That's for sure. We will always be friends, Fire Lotus said. So sure? Qin Feiyang was surprised. Fire Lotus was speechless. You are a person who has just entered the ancient world. What grudges can I have with you? That's true. But there is an old saying that the world is unpredictable. I still hope that you and I can remember what we said today. Qin Feiyang smiled. I will remember. Fire Lotus nodded. Passing through the river, the two of them entered the sky above the forest and looked ahead. The forest covered an area of about tens of thousands of miles. With Qin Feiyang's current low-level war god cultivation, he could clearly see the scenery tens of thousands of miles away. At the end of the forest, which was the edge of the forest, there were villages of various sizes. And in the forest there were many people hunting. The battlefield of humans and beasts could be seen everywhere. And the beasts in this forest were not very strong. The most powerful one was only a war god. Of course, the humans hunting in the forest were not strong either. Seniors, did you come from the mountain range on the other side of the river? Suddenly, a timid voice sounded from the forest below. There's someone. Qin Feiyang and Fire Lotus glanced at each other and looked down. They saw three young people standing below and looking at them curiously. At the same time, there was also a trace of vigilance in their eyes. The three of them looked to be in their 20s. They were all covered in blood and their hair was very messy. Obviously, they were also hunting in the forest. You actually didn't notice them? Qin Feiyang muttered. With his cultivation, he could see through the strength of the three at a glance. They were only one-star war gods. A mere one-star war god could actually hide from his perception? Even Fire Lotus did not notice them? Swish! The two of them took a step forward and landed in front of the three. The three of them immediately retreated. The vigilance on their faces was even stronger. Don't be nervous. Qin Feiyang revealed a kind smile. The three of them glanced at each other and still did not let down their guard. Qin Feiyang said, Let me ask you, why didn't I sense you approaching? It should be because of this. One of the young men took out a jade pendant from the clothes on his chest. So it's like this. Qin Feiyang mumbled. He took a closer look at the jade pendant and could tell that it was made by the soul-sealing stone. However, how could three mere war gods have the soul-sealing stone? Qin Feiyang asked secretly, Fire Lotus, is the soul-sealing stone very common in this ancient realm? I'm not sure either. But last time when I sneaked into the Guo family, I found that many people were wearing the soul-sealing stone. Fire Lotus transmitted her voice. That's right. The soul-sealing stone is not considered a rare thing in the ancient realm. Qin Feiyang smiled bitterly. Thinking back to when he was in the Great Qin and Forgotten Continent, finding a soul-sealing stone was as difficult as ascending to the heavens. But here it was like carrots and cabbages everywhere. The young man who took out the jade pendant asked suspiciously again, Seniors, did you come from the other side of the river? Is this very important? Qin Feiyang was suspicious. Yes. The young man nodded. The other two young men also waited for Qin Feiyang's answer with a look of anticipation. Yes. We came from the land of the undead. Qin Feiyang said. So you guys crossed that mountain range? The three of them asked in surprise. That's right. Qin Feiyang nodded. Amazing. It said that there are monarch god-level beasts in that mountain range. The three of them were extremely shocked. You guys know about it too? Qin Feiyang asked. Of course. We live in a village outside the forest. Although we have never been to that mountain range, we have heard about it from the elders in the village. They said that the mountain range is a forbidden area. And this river here is the dividing line. You must not cross it. Two lords, to be able to cross the land of the undead, you must be very strong. Can you accept us as your disciples and teach us how to cultivate? The three young men looked at Qin Feiyang and Fire Lotus with a pleading look. Disciples? Qin Feiyang and Fire Lotus looked at each other. Two lords, please accept us. We just want to become stronger. The three of them looked at each other and even knelt on the ground and begged. What's going on? Qin Feiyong frowned. They were just strangers who met by chance. They didn't even know what kind of person he and Fire Lotus were. And they wanted to be apprenticed? Fire Lotus walked forward and smiled. Get up first. The three of them got up and looked at Fire Lotus with a pitiful look. Fire Lotus's eyes were very gentle. Tell me first, why do you want to become stronger? We want to protect our family in the village. Yes. We don't want to be oppressed by them anymore. The three of them clasped their hands and said, Oppress? Who is oppressing you? Qin Feiyong was suspicious. The Guo family. One of the young men said, his eyes full of hatred. The Guo family? Qin Feiyong was stunned and frowned. The Guo family you're talking about is the patriarch called Guo Zixiong? Yes. The three of them nodded. Qin Feiyong and Fire Lotus looked at each other. Fire Lotus said telepathically, it seems that the Guo family is not a kind person. Qin Feiyong's eyes flashed and looked at the three young men calmly. How does the Guo family oppress you? The Guo family is very domineering. Hundreds of villages of various sizes within a few 100,000 miles are all controlled by them. Usually, not only do they beat, scold, and bully us, but they also ask us to hand over 50 soul stones to them every year. You two lords must know how precious soul stones are. On the market, they are basically priceless. Villages like ours can only barely gather 50 pieces after working hard for a whole year. Sometimes, when we're unlucky and can't find anything valuable, we can't even gather that many. The three young men were talking at the same time, and all of them had an angry look on their faces. Literature Museum. Chapter 1927. There's such a thing? Qin Feiyong raised his eyebrows. If the three of them weren't lying, then the Guo family was indeed too much. Sir, we can guarantee with our lives that every word is true. Seeing that Qin Feiyong was a little doubtful, the three young men patted their chests and swore. Then what if your villages can't gather 50 soul stones? Qin Feiyong asked. Pay with your life. Kill one person for every soul stone missing. Over the years, more than 20 people in our village have been mercilessly killed by them. The eyes of the three were filled with resentment. Pay with your life. Hearing this, Qin Feiyong was furious. How could they do such an inhumane thing? How pitiful. Fire Lotus sighed. Sir, please take us in. We really don't want to be bullied by the Guo family anymore. The three young men begged bitterly. You're so anxious. Have you never thought that we're bad people? Or are we from the Guo family? Qin Feiyong said. The Guo family. The three of them looked at the two of them with fear in their eyes. Don't be so nervous. I do have some connections with the Guo family, but I'm not from the Guo family. Qin Feiyong smiled. You have connections with the Guo family? The three of them trembled and immediately turned around to flee. Because in their view, having connections with the Guo family meant that they were related. What three reckless brats. At least before they become apprentices, they should find out the other party's identity. Qin Feiyong shook his head and laughed. Although they are reckless, it also shows how desperate they are. Otherwise, they wouldn't be so desperate. And when they heard that you have connections with the Guo family, they immediately ran away. It shows how scared they are of the Grand Preceptor. Fire Lotus said. It doesn't make sense. Our ancestor is such a kind person. How could he be friends with the Guo family? Not to mention leaving behind a marriage contract? Qin Feiyong frowned. I think there's something fishy about this. We need to investigate. Fire Lotus said. It's not just an investigation, it's a thorough investigation. A cold light flashed in Qin Feiyong's eyes. If the Guo family was really such a person, then the possibility of the marriage contract being forged could not be ruled out. If the marriage contract was forged, then don't blame him for being impolite. But, regardless of whether the marriage contract was real or fake, Guo Zixiong definitely knew the ancestor. Let's go. Let's catch up to them and find out more information, Qin Feiyong said. Fire Lotus nodded. The two of them were both low-level war gods. His speed was much faster than the three youths. In just a few breaths' time, he had caught up with them. Sir, we were wrong. Please don't kill us. Their faces turned pale as they knelt on the ground and begged in despair. Get up. We are all men, how can we kneel to anyone? Qin Feiyong raised his eyebrows and shouted. The three of them trembled and hurriedly crawled to their feet. They stood together, cowering in fear. Qin Feiyong asked, Do you know about the Gao family? Yes. They rule over another area with a few hundred villages. And just like the Guo family, they ask the villages to hand over 50 soul stones every year. The three of them hurriedly said. Qin Feiyong said, I'll say it again. Although I have a relationship with the Guo family, I'm not a member of the Guo family. I won't hurt you. But the three of them did not believe him. Qin Feiyong shook his head helplessly and asked, Then do you know about the war between the Guo family and the Gao family? We've heard about it. The three of them said, I want to know the details. Qin Feiyong said, We don't know the details either. We only heard people talking about it occasionally. The three of them were extremely anxious. Qin Feiyong said, Then tell me what you know. Yes. The Gao family and the Guo family have always been enemies. And whether it's the Guo family or the Gao family, they both want to invade each other's territory and expand their power. But because their overall strength is about the same, although there has been friction over the years, they haven't really shed all pretense of cordiality. And basically, it's just the friction between the younger generation. The older generation has never interfered. But half a year ago, it's said that the Guo family's patriarch, Guo Zixiong, suddenly led a group of gods of war and attacked the Gao family. The Gao family was caught off guard and suffered a great loss. They even lost a god of war. Naturally, the Gao family couldn't let this matter go. Since then, the friction between the Guo family and the Gao family has been escalating. After the constant fighting in the past half a year, both sides have lost a lot of clansmen. This is what we know. If you want to know more, you can ask the Gao family and the Guo family. After saying that, the three of them looked at Qin Feiyong anxiously. Qin Feiyong asked, Then why did they attack the land of the undead? The land of the undead? We really don't know about this. The three of them said. Qin Feiyong said, Give me the coordinates of the Gao family and give me a few altars. We have the coordinates. But we don't have the altars. Because a teleportation altar costs 1,000 god crystals. We can't afford it. The three of them said bitterly, Is 1,000 god crystals a lot? Qin Feiyong was doubtful. The three of them didn't know how to answer. Qin Feiyong looked at the three of them and waved his hand. All right. Just give me the coordinates. The Gao family's land is in the southwest. After giving the coordinates to Qin Feiyong, the three of them ran into the forest and disappeared. Qin Feiyong looked at Fire Lotus and asked again, Is 1,000 god crystals really a lot? I don't know. Fire Lotus shook her head. Qin Feiyong shook his head and smiled bitterly. He had just come to the ancient world, so he didn't know what 1,000 god crystals was. Looks like I have to inquire about the situation of the ancient world in detail. Qin Feiyong exhaled and brought Fire Lotus with him. They kept teleporting and soon left the forest. One by one, the villages came into sight. The big villages had thousands of families. The smallest village had more than 1,000 families. As for cultivation, the strongest was only a 5- or 6-star war emperor. However, compared to the Great Qin and the Forgotten Continent, the strength of these villages was not simple. Because in the Great Qin and the Forgotten Continent, other than the Lu family, there was no other village that could compare to the villages here. Even the 9 provinces of the Great Qin and the 9 regions of the Forgotten Continent combined could not compare to a village here. I'm really looking forward to it. Qin Feiyong did not stop and directly teleported to the southwest. About an hour passed. Suddenly, he stopped above a village. This village had more than 10,000 families. Moreover, he sensed the aura of a false god in the village. Obviously, this village was overseen by a false god. Where did you come from? Following a hoarse shout, a white-haired old man flew into the sky. Qin Feiyong sized up the white-haired old man. This old man was the false god that he had sensed. At the same time, the white-haired old man was also sizing up Qin Feiyong and Fire Lotus. Suddenly, his pupils suddenly shrank, and he hurriedly bowed and said, Greetings, lords. He was actually unable to see through the cultivation of these two people. That meant that they were definitely war gods. Qin Feiyong laughed. Old man, there's no need to be so polite. The white-haired old man did not dare to be negligent at all, and said respectfully, "May I ask, what orders do you have for coming here?" Qin Feiyong said, "I'm just passing by." "So you're just passing by?" The white-haired old man heaved a sigh of relief. Qin Feiyong said, "Old man, I want to ask, is your village ruled by the Guo family or the Gao family?" "We belong to the Guo family," the white-haired old man said. Qin Feiyong asked, "What's the Guo family's character like?" "The Guo family's character?" The white-haired old man was stunned, and immediately became vigilant, asking carefully, "May I ask if you're from the Guo family?" Qin Feiyong turned his head to look at Hulian and said with a smile, "See, people with a bit of experience are indeed different." Fire Lotus said, "More cautious than those three brats." Qin Feiyong looked at the white-haired old man and laughed. "Old man, don't worry, I have nothing to do with the Guo family." The white-haired old man did not believe him immediately. "If the Guo family really forces us like this, we might rebel." Haha. Guochang and Guoshan couldn't help but laugh out loud. "Qi Yuan, there's something you don't know yet, right? The Gao clan's territory has already been taken over by my Guo clan. My Guo clan's power now is even greater than before. You dare to rebel?" Guoshan laughed. "What? They've already invaded the Gao clan's territory?" Qi Yuan was surprised. "That's right. Just yesterday evening, the clan leader led more than 20 war gods and killed their way into the Gao clan. Except for Gao Guofeng and Gao Xiaowei, everyone in the Gao clan was wiped out by us. Now say it again. Are you rebelling?" Guochang sneered at the white-haired old man. Hearing this, the white-haired old man's old face turned pale. "Say it. Aren't you very brave? Didn't you even dare to call our clan leader by his name? What? Now that you've heard the news of the Gao clan's destruction, you don't dare to say anything? Old thing, I'm giving you face, but you don't want it." Guochang took a step forward and immediately slapped the white-haired old man's face. A blood-red palm print appeared. Streaks of bright red blood flowed out from the corners of the white-haired old man's mouth. However, the white-haired old man turned a deaf ear to this. His whole person seemed to have become numb. He stood there in a daze, his eyes dim and his face indifferent. The Guo clan's strength skyrocketed after annexing the Gao clan. In the future, their villages would undoubtedly have no way to survive. Suddenly, the white-haired old man looked up at Guochang and said, "Just now, you said that the village with a false god will only have to hand in 100 soul stones?" "Yes." Guochang nodded. The white-haired old man said, "Then, will the villages without a false god still have to hand in 50 soul stones like before?" "Yes." Guochang nodded again. "Good." The white-haired old man gritted his teeth and looked at the villagers below. He roared with tears in his eyes. From this moment on, this old man is no longer a person of this village. What? The villagers below suddenly became restless. Guochang was also stunned. Then he said angrily, "Old thing, are you playing tricks? This is my home. The people here are also my family. If I wasn't forced to a dead end by you, would I have made such a painful decision? I think, in this world, no one would be willing to abandon a home and the family around them." The white-haired old man cried sadly. "Yes. Who wants to leave home? Leave family? But in this world there are too many helplessness." Qin Feiyong sighed inwardly. The white-haired old man's words deeply touched his heartstrings. However, Guochang and Guoshan's faces were gloomy. "I have abandoned my family and the village. Now that there are no more false gods here, can we only hand in 50 soul stones like in previous years?" The white-haired old man looked at the two and said, "Haha." Guochang and Guoshan looked at each other and couldn't help but laugh. However, their laughter was full of sarcasm. "Old thing, do you think you can reduce the soul stones by playing tricks? Let me tell you, stop dreaming. Even if you leave, this village must hand in 100 soul stones in the future." Guochang said. "Guochang, not 100. You have to increase the price. In the future, this village must hand in 150 soul stones every year. This is the price of playing tricks," Guoshan said. Guochang was slightly stunned and laughed. "Good idea, it's decided. Qi Yuan, prepare 150 soul stones for us on this day next year. If there is one less, we will kill one of you. 150 soul stones. Qi Yuan's face was dull and disheartened. The villagers below were also filled with anger and despair. This is too much, too much. Fire Lotus looked at this scene and muttered to herself, a trace of murderous intent surging in her eyes. This was simply treating the villagers as fish to be slaughtered. However, Guochang and Guoshan's faces were full of sneers. Let's see if you dare to be rash in the future. Let's go. Guochang smiled contemptuously and turned to leave with Guoshan. Stop. But at this moment, the white-haired old man suddenly roared. The two stopped and turned to look at the white-haired old man with a cold expression. The white-haired old man stared at the two of them, like a wild beast that was about to go crazy, and said word by word, "You really don't want to give us a way out. You asked for it." Guochang snorted coldly. Good. Very good. Very good. The white-haired old man nodded with a smile, and then suddenly roared in anger, "If you don't give us a way out, you can forget about living." Boom! The white-haired old man took a step towards Guochang and Guoshan, and a destructive aura rushed out from his body. Self-destruction. Old man, are you crazy? Guochang and Guoshan turned pale with fright. Yes, I am crazy, but it's because of you, the white-haired old man roared. Don't, let's talk things over. The two of them shouted as they fled in fear. There's nothing to talk about. For this village, for these family members, I have to stand up bravely. I believe that after I self-destruct, the people in the other villages will slowly wake up and rebel against the Guo family. One day, the Guo family will pay the price for everything you've done. The white-haired old man roared, and there was no fear on his face. Shua! But just as the white-haired old man was about to self-destruct, a young figure suddenly appeared behind him. It was Qin Feiyang. Qin Feiyang raised his arm and gently pressed on the white-haired old man's shoulder. The white-haired old man's self-destruction was forcefully stopped. The white-haired old man was stunned, and he turned to look at Qin Feiyang. My lord, what are you doing? Qin Feiyang smiled. Old man, life is so precious. How can you seek your own death? The white-haired old man sighed. My lord, I don't want to either, but as you can see, I can only do this. Don't worry. There's always a way out. Qin Feiyang smiled and looked at Guochang and Guoshan. He flicked his finger and a strand of divine power shot out. After the white-haired old man stopped self-destructing, the two of them immediately activated a teleportation altar. The divine power blasted out, and the awakened altar shattered. The two of them stood awkwardly in the air and looked at Qin Feiyang. Your Excellency, please don't meddle in other people's business. I have a bad habit. Whenever I see someone bullying others, I can't help but attack. Moreover, I owe Qi Yuan a favor. I can't just sit by and watch. Qin Feiyang smiled. Oh, the two of them were suspicious. How could Qi Yuan be related to a war god? However, Qi Yuan himself was also suspicious. Why didn't he know that this young man owed him a favor? Qin Feiyang looked at the two of them and smiled. Before you came, Qi Yuan gave me a teleportation altar. What? Giving you a teleportation altar is considered a favor? The two of them were stunned. Although a teleportation altar is nothing, it's still a favor. A drop of water should be repaid with a gushing spring. Qin Feiyang said. My lord, Qi Yuan looked at Qin Feiyang in a daze. He didn't know what to say. Leave this to me. Qin Feiyang smiled at Qi Yuan. Is this okay? They're from the Guo family. The Guo family not only has dozens of war gods, but their patriarch, Guo Zixiong, is also a great success war god. Moreover, the old patriarch of the Guo family is even stronger. He's a perfect war god. The white-haired old man said worriedly. Literature Center. They originally thought that Qin Feiyang and Guoshan were just scaring Guochang and Guoshan, but they didn't expect that. In the end, they killed them without any hesitation. Who exactly were this man and woman? They weren't even afraid of the Guo family. Bang! Guochang and Guoshan's corpses fell to the ground below. Qin Feiyang took a step forward and landed in front of the two. After searching their bodies for a while, he took out two Qiankuan bags. Huolian also landed beside him in a single step. The white-haired old man also hurriedly flew towards the two. Qin Feiyang checked the two Qiankuan bags and looked at Fire Lotus with a smile. Not bad. There should be more than 10,000 soul stones in Guoshan's Qingkuan bag. I didn't expect this either. There are more than 500 villages under the Guo family's rule. One village has 50 soul stones. More than 500 villages have more than 20,000 soul stones. And here there are only more than 10,000 soul stones. This means that they haven't finished collecting them. The white-haired old man said. Every year, they can reap more than 20,000 soul stones without any effort. The Guo family is indeed the embodiment of the law of the jungle. Qin Feiyang shook his head and sighed. In addition to the 10,000 soul stones, there were more than 200 divine gems and 2 teleportation altars in the 2 Qingkuan bags. In addition, there were some pills. However, they were only pills with 2 or 3 elixir veins. They weren't very valuable. Qin Feiyang took out a divine gem and looked at it with a frown. What's wrong? Fire Lotus was suspicious. Look, the 2 false divinities only added up to a little over 200 deity crystals. It seems that 1,000 divine gems is indeed a big fortune in the ancient world. Qin Feiyang thought. There must be a lot of divine gems in the Guo family's treasure vault. You might as well marry Guo Zixiong's daughter. Then you'll get a lot of wealth without any effort. Fire Lotus snickered. Am I the kind of person who would reap without any effort? Qin Feiyang rolled his eyes at her. Yes. Fire Lotus nodded seriously. Qin Feiyang shook his head and laughed. But you did remind me. If the marriage contract is fake, then I'll have to take a look at the Guo family's treasure vault. See, you still want to reap without any effort. Fire Lotus rolled her eyes. How is this the same? Qin Feiyang helplessly took out 1,000 soul stones and smiled at the white-haired old man. These 1,000 soul stones should be enough for you to become a warlord. Take them. The white-haired old man looked at the soul stones and waved his hand. I don't dare to take these soul stones. Sir has already helped us a lot. If I take these soul stones, am I still human? Just take them. When you become stronger, take good care of your family. Qin Feiyang smiled and sent the 2 Qingkuan bags to the castle. Then he left with Fire Lotus. The white-haired old man looked at the 1,000 soul stones in front of him. He was so emotional that tears flowed down his face. Suddenly, he raised his head to look at the backs of Qin Feiyang and the other man, and shouted, Sirs, can you tell me your names? Qin Feiyang. Qin Feiyang said without turning his head. Thank you, young Master Qin. The white-haired old man bowed deeply at the backs of the 2. Fire Lotus smiled. Qin Dage, you're so kind. I thought you were going to take all the soul stones. This Qi Yuan has a good heart. It's okay to give him some soul stones. Qin Feiyang faintly smiled. Then, are we still going to the Gao family? Fire Lotus asked. Qin Feiyang pondered for a while and said, let's go and have a look. Maybe we can still meet Guo Zixiong in the Gao family. After saying that, Qin Feiyang opened a teleportation altar. The 2 walked up one after another. Soon, they landed in the sky above a plain. The plain was about a dozen miles wide, but there were big and small pits everywhere. These were the traces left behind by the battle. In the middle of the plain there was a city. The city was not big. It covered an area of about a few miles. Like the plain, it was also broken and filled with a tragic aura. And there were many corpses and blood on the ground. And in the city, Qin Feiyang could also sense the aura of dozens of false gods. They were cleaning the battlefield. Needless to say, these faux divinities were from the Guo family. Because Guo Chang had said before that except for the 2 people named Gao Guofeng and Gao Xiaoyi, everyone in the Gao family had been slaughtered by the Guo family. The Guo family is really ruthless. Looking at the devastated city, Qin Feiyang shook his head and sighed. Even mortals have disputes, let alone cultivators. Things like this are basically happening all the time. Fire Lotus said. Qin Feiyang nodded. Indeed, the path of cultivation was crueler than anything else. Qin Feiyang did not release his spirit sense. He used his perception to sense the aura in the city. After a while, Qin Feiyang frowned and said, I can't sense the aura of Guo Zixiong and Guo Da, but there is the aura of a war god in the city. And this aura isn't weak. I can sense it too. It seems to be a low-level war god. Fire Lotus whispered. The 2 of them were about to fly into the city. But suddenly, in the sky above the plain opposite the city, A black-clothed man flew through the air like lightning and landed in the sky above the city. He shouted, "Miss, I found the whereabouts of Gao Guofeng and Gao Shui." So, that moment, a figure flew up into the sky. It was a red-haired woman. She was also wearing a fiery red dress. She was about 1.78 meters tall and had an excellent figure. Her facial features were also quite exquisite. From afar, she looked like a fairy standing in flames. However, her expression was somewhat cold, giving off a cold feeling that kept people thousands of miles away. "Where?" The woman looked at the black-clothed man, her eyes flashing with a cold light, and asked. The black-clothed man said, "They are hiding in the Scarlet Flame Valley and are healing their injuries. Take me there immediately." The woman said, "Yes." The black-clothed man respectfully replied, turned around, and flew in the direction he came from. The woman took a step forward, but suddenly seemed to have sensed something. She turned her head and looked in the direction of Qin Feiyang and the other person, but there was nothing in the void. "Miss, what's wrong?" The black-clothed man looked at the woman in confusion. "Nothing." The woman shook her head and suspiciously glanced at the void. Then she turned around and followed the black-clothed man. In the void, Fire Lotus looked at the woman's back, then turned her head to Qin Feiyang and asked suspiciously, "Why did you use the invisibility technique?" Qin Feiyang said, "I'm thinking that woman might be Guo Zixiong's daughter." "Guo Zixiong's daughter?" Fire Lotus was a bit surprised. Qin Feiyang asked doubtfully, "Didn't you go to the Guo family? Why don't you know what she looks like?" "I did go to the Guo family, but I didn't see Guo Zixiong's daughter." "If that woman is really Guo Zixiong's daughter, then you're really lucky," Fire Lotus mocked. "Lucky?" Qin Feiyang was stunned. What did she mean? Think about it. His daughter is so young, but she broke through to the low-level war god realm. It shows how terrifying her talent is. Facing such a beautiful girl, even if the marriage contract was forged by the Guo family, I'll still marry her. Fire Lotus covered her mouth and laughed. A row of black lines appeared on Qin Feiyang's forehead as he speechlessly said, "Then go ahead and marry her. I absolutely won't stop you." "Then I'm curious. If you don't plan to marry her, then why are you avoiding her?" Fire Lotus said, "I just want to see if she's really Guo Zixiong's daughter or not. If she is, then she must know about the marriage contract. If the marriage contract is fake, then I'll just show up. She won't tell the truth." Qin Feiyang said. "I see." Fire Lotus suddenly smiled and teased. "I thought you were shy because you met your future wife. You really know how to talk nonsense." Qin Feiyang looked at her helplessly. He waved his hand and rolled up Fire Lotus. Then, he used the Xing technique and chased after the woman and the black-clothed man. Literature Center. Chapter 1930. The Xing character formula is a heaven-defying formula. In less than 10 breaths, Qin Feiyang took the Fire Lotus and caught up with the red-clothed woman and the black-clothed man. Then he followed them. The red-clothed woman and the black-clothed man didn't notice him at all. About 500 to 600 breaths passed. A huge valley came into sight. Around the valley, waves of fire rolled and black smoke curled up. There were no plants within a radius of dozens of miles. Crimson lava flowed and waves of heat surged, turning this place into a huge furnace. The lava came from the valley. In the middle of the valley, there was a crater with a diameter of 5 to 6 meters. Occasionally lava would spurt out. "Miss, they are in a cave on the left side of the crater." The black-clothed man pointed and said in a low voice. The two of them also concealed their presence. The red-clothed woman looked at the direction the black-clothed man pointed, but didn't see the so-called cave. She asked, "Are you sure where they are?" The black-clothed man said, "I'm sure. I also saw Gao Shui use lava to seal the entrance with my own eyes." "That's good. Back off." The red-clothed woman waved her hand. Her eyes were filled with coldness. The black-clothed man said, "Miss, be careful." "I'm fine." Although Gao Guofeng is a perfect war god, his soul was damaged when he fought grandfather last night. His vitality was greatly damaged. If he had a life pill, he would have recovered by now. Unfortunately, both his and Gao Shaoyi's universe rings were destroyed last night, so the current Gao Guofeng is nothing to worry about. As for Gao Xiaohui, although she isn't injured, she is just a beginner war god. I can kill her with a wave of my hand. The red-clothed woman said with contempt. Perfect war god, Qin Feiyong thought. So the Gao family also has a perfect war god. No wonder the three young men he met not long ago said that the Gao family and the Guo family were equal in strength. Mrs. Mighty. The black-clothed man said flatteringly and then retreated silently. Gao Guofeng, Gao Xiaohui. The red-clothed woman muttered. She stepped out and landed on top of the crater. She looked down coldly and said, Gao Xiaohui, come out. But after a while, no other sound could be heard. Looks like you'll only come out if I do it. The woman in red raised her slender finger, and a surge of divine energy suddenly surged out. It turned into a wave of fire that blasted into the valley below. Accompanied by a loud bang, the valley instantly split apart and collapsed crazily. The surging magma was like a fountain as it gushed out from the ground. Black smoke enveloped the entire area. Qin Feiyong looked at Fire Lotus and said with a smile, let's back off a little. Fire Lotus nodded. The two of them retreated 50 to 60 miles and stood in the void, watching from afar. To a mortal, it would take several hours to cover a distance of 50 to 60 kilometers even if they ran non-stop. However, to Qin Feiyong and Huolian it was nothing. They could teleport away. Furthermore, with their current eyesight they could see everything clearly even from tens of thousands of miles away. Just as the two of them retreated, two figures suddenly rushed out of the black smoke. It was an old man and a young woman. Although the old man was old, he had a ruddy complexion and white hair, and his body was quite strong. And the young woman was about the same as the woman in red. Her appearance was also quite good. She was more than 1.7 meters tall and was extremely slender. Her jet-black hair was tied together, making her look full of heroic spirit. Her skin was also very soft. However, the old man and the young woman were in a sorry state at the moment. Especially the old man, his body was covered in blood. His eyes were dim and lifeless, and there was a sense of weakness between his eyebrows that couldn't be dissolved. After the two of them appeared, they didn't bother with the woman in red. They didn't even say a word and directly teleported away. However, there was a trace of fear on their faces. Gao Guofeng, you're a perfect war god. Facing a junior like me, you actually ran away without fighting. Aren't you afraid of being laughed at? The woman in red said mockingly. She took a step forward and her speed instantly increased by several times. In the blink of an eye, she appeared in front of Gao Guofeng and Gao Guofeng. The two of them braked and stopped in the void. Gao Xiaohui immediately glared at the woman in red and shouted, Guosweki, don't go too far. Guosweki. Qin Feiyong mumbled. So that was the name of the woman in red. Guosweki looked at Gao Xiaohui expressionlessly, and then shifted her gaze to Gao Guofeng. After observing carefully for a while, she said, as I expected, your divine soul hasn't been repaired. Even if it hasn't been repaired, it's not something that a little kid like you can block. Gao Guofeng shouted furiously, and there was a hint of anger in his tone. His divine power was like a tide that carried a terrifying aura as it rushed toward Guosweki. Guosweki's eyes flickered. She seemed to be hesitating whether to fight head-on. Suddenly, a cold light flashed across her eyes. She raised her hand and a flame-like divine power appeared. It roared in the sky and collided with Gao Guofeng's divine power. Boom! A loud explosion that shook the sky suddenly exploded. A wave of destructive energy surged out in all directions. The land within a radius of tens of thousands of miles was razed to the ground. Dust and smoke covered the sky. Qin Feiyong also went to the Black Tortoise world with the Fire Lotus. This was because once they were affected by the fluctuations of battle, the concealment technique would disappear. However, it was different in the Black Tortoise world. No matter how Guosweki and the other two fought, even if they self-destructed, it wouldn't affect them. Outside, when the dust settled, Guosweki was pushed back dozens of miles. Her face was pale and there was a trace of blood at the corner of her mouth. The skin on her arm was also cracked. Blood dripped down from her fingertips. However, Guosweki ignored this injury and stared at Gao Guofeng, who was standing in the void opposite her. Gao Guofeng stood firmly in the void and didn't even move a step. He didn't look any different from when he first appeared. The aura exuding from his body was extremely terrifying. How is this possible? Last night, I saw with my own eyes that his divine soul was damaged, and he could only use the strength of a beginner god of war. But now, he actually pushed me back. Could it be? His divine soul has been repaired. Guosweki muttered to herself and looked at Gao Guofeng with a face full of shock. Gao Xiaowei glanced at Guosweki and ran to Gao Guofeng's side and asked, "Grandpa, are you okay?" Gao Guofeng waved his hand and said with a hoarse smile, "Don't worry, Grandpa is fine." Guosweki raised her eyebrows and said, "Your Qin Kuan ring was destroyed and you didn't have the life elixir. How could you repair your divine soul so quickly? Little girl, you are still too young. Although the Qin Kuan ring was destroyed, the life elixir is such an important elixir. I will definitely store it elsewhere." Gao Guofeng sneered. Damn it! Guosweki cursed in her heart. If Gao Guofeng's divine soul hadn't been repaired, she wouldn't be afraid at all. However, once Gao Guofeng's divine soul was repaired, it would be easy for him to kill her with his cultivation as a perfect god of war. Immediately, she had the thought of retreating. Wait! But suddenly, she looked Gao Guofeng up and down again. Something was wrong. If Gao Guofeng's divine soul had really been repaired, why did he take Gao Xiaowei and run away? Logically speaking, if Gao Guofeng's divine soul had been repaired, given the deep hatred between the two families, he should immediately take the initiative to kill her, or take her captive and use her as a bargaining chip to threaten the Guo family. But now, although Gao Guofeng was overbearing, he still had the intention to take the initiative to attack. Suddenly, Guosweki showed a look of realization. Her red lips curled up slightly as she wiped the blood on her hands and said with a smile, "You are indeed an old fox. I almost fell for your trick." Hearing this, a look of panic flashed across Gao Guofeng's face. Obviously, his divine soul hadn't been repaired. However, on the surface, his expression didn't change. He put his hands behind his back and pretended to be calm as he looked at Guosweki and asked, "What do you mean? If your divine soul has been repaired, why are you still standing there and not doing anything? If I am not wrong, your situation is worse than mine in the confrontation just now. Stop pretending. Your divine soul hasn't been repaired at all." Guosweki sneered. The Black Tortoise whirled. Looking at Guosweki and Gao Guofeng, Qin Feiyang said with a smile, "The people in this ancient world are indeed not simple characters." Fire Lotus was stunned. She pursed her lips and said with a smile, "Qin Dage isn't afraid, is he?" Afraid? Qin Feiyang smiled. In terms of scheming, he really wasn't afraid of anyone. Outside, hearing Guosweki's words, Gao Guofeng's expression still didn't change. His aura became more and more terrifying. He had to continue pretending, because only by scaring away Guosweki could he and his granddaughter Gao Xiaowei live. However, his weak body didn't allow it. Puff! The blood that had been held in his throat suddenly spurted out. His face instantly became pale. His body kept shaking. Even standing seemed to be very difficult. Gao Xiaowei's expression changed. She quickly stretched out her hands and grabbed Gao Guofeng's arm. "Finally, you can't pretend anymore." Guosweki's face was full of ridicule. Gao Guofeng smiled bitterly and turned to look at Gao Xiaowei. He said with a face full of guilt, "Xiaowei, I'm sorry. Grandpa is too useless. I can't even protect you." "Grandpa, don't say that. I'm the useless one." Gao Xiaowei shook her head and tears flowed down. "The Gao family only has today's achievements and status because of our ancestors' hard work. But I didn't expect that it would all be destroyed by my hands overnight. Xiaowei, Grandpa is the sinner of the Gao family." Gao Guofeng cried out in grief. "Grandpa, cheer up. You still have me." Gao Xiaowei cried out. Then she turned around and protected Gao Guofeng behind her. She said without turning her head, "Grandpa, I will protect you." Looking at his granddaughter in front of him, Gao Guofeng undoubtedly blamed himself. He actually needed his granddaughter to protect him? He was a perfect war god. Where was his face? Gao Guofeng pushed Gao Xiaowei away and roared, "Xiaowei, you are our Gao family's only hope now. You can't die here. Grandpa will hold her back. Run and find your brother. Ask him to avenge us. No one can escape." Guosweki smiled coldly. Chapter 1931. Accompanied by a loud clanging sound, a world-destroying sharpness appeared in front of him. Following that, a thin red sword appeared in Gwisweki's hand. The thin sword looked like it was made of magma. The fire dragon was engraved on the sword hilt. The fire dragon divine sword. Looking at the thin sword, Gao Guofeng's face changed. He shouted anxiously, "Shall we? Don't hesitate. Hurry. I can't leave you behind, grandfather." Gao Shaohui shook her head. Looking at Gao Guofeng and Gwisweki, there was a trace of fear for the fire dragon divine sword. But more than that, there was a reluctance to leave Gao Guofeng. Clang! The fire dragon divine sword in Gwisweki's hand had awakened. The aura was shocking like a tide, covering the sky and shattering the earth. High-grade divine weapon. Black Tortoise World. Qin Feiyang's eyes lit up. Even the Guo family's patriarch, Guo Zixiong, only has a middle-grade divine weapon, but this girl has a high-grade divine weapon. Looks like Gwisweki's status in the Guo family isn't low. Qin Dage, if you really become the Guo family's son-in-law, your future will be limitless, Fire Lotus said with a smile. Qin Feiyang heard this and felt helpless. Outside, facing Gao Shaohui's stubbornness, Gao Guofeng was both touched and anxious. He was touched because of his granddaughter's filial piety. He was anxious because if Gao Shaohui didn't leave, both of them would die here. All these years, the Guo family and Gao family had been at odds. Because of this, Gao Guofeng knew everyone in the Guo family like the back of his hand. After all, there was a good saying, "Know yourself and know your enemy, and you will win every battle." He had watched Gwisweki grow up, so he knew Gwisweki very well. Although she was beautiful, she had a heart as venomous as a snake and scorpion. Once he was killed, he would never show mercy to his granddaughter, Gao Shaohui. Clang! Gwisweki looked coldly at the grandfather and granddaughter duo. She shook the fire dragon divine sword in her hand, and thousands of sword qi roared out, forming a huge fire dragon. It bared its fangs and brandished its claws as it pounced towards the duo. The appearance of the fire dragon also meant that the power of the fire dragon divine sword had recovered to its peak state. Seeing this, Gao Guofeng immediately pushed Gao Shaohui away and shouted, "Shaohui, now is not the time to be sentimental. Let's go, we must find your big brother." Then, like a moth darting into a flame, he pounced towards the fire dragon formed by the sword qi. "Grandpa!" Gao Shaohui screamed in despair. "Go!" Gao Guofeng roared without turning his head. Tears streamed down Gao Shaohui's face as she stared at Gao Guofeng's back. Then she turned around and fled into the depths of the mountain. Gwisweki saw it all, but she didn't care about Gao Shaohui. She took a step forward and charged towards Gao Guofeng with a cold expression. The magma was boiling. It was a scene of devastation. Gao Guofeng's body had already fallen and was swallowed by the red magma. Gwisweki looked down coldly. Then, she grabbed the fire dragon divine sword and chased after Gao Shaohui. The black-clothed man standing in the distance also immediately chased after her. Qin Feiyang also controlled the Black Tortoise realm and silently followed behind Gwisweki. In front, Gao Shaohui felt Gwisweki's aura. Her pale face was filled with panic and fear. Gwisweki was an initial stage war god. Although she was also a war god, she was only an initial stage war god. Although there was only a difference of one stage, it was like an insurmountable chasm. Whether it was strength or speed, Gwisweki surpassed her by too much. If this continued, she would not be able to escape. Whoosh! As expected. In less than 100 breaths, Gwisweki relied on her suppressive speed to block in front of Gao Shaohui. Gao Shaohui slammed on the brakes and looked around in panic. Then she looked at Gwisweki and said angrily, "Don't go too far." "Go too far?" Gwisweki sneered. Her eyes were filled with disdain. "Think about it. You've been competing with me in secret all these years. You don't want to lose to me. But in the end, I've always been stronger than you." Gao Shaohui clenched her fists and said angrily, "Are you humiliating me? Humiliating you? The Gao family is already destroyed. You're no longer the young miss of the Gao family. You're not worthy to be my opponent. What's the point of me humiliating you?" Gwisweki said indifferently. Gao Shaohui's face was red. She was ashamed and angry. "I just want to tell you something. In this world, there will only be one genius. No matter how hard others work, they're just green leaves." Gwisweki said. "What an arrogant woman." Black Tortoise realm. Qin Feiyang muttered. Fire Lotus said, "Although she's a bit arrogant, Her words are reasonable. Qin Feiyong nodded. Outside, the black-clothed man also caught up and blocked Gao Shaohui's path. Gao Shaohui glanced at the black-clothed man, then looked at Guo Sueki and said, "Today, I'm in your hands. You can kill me or torture me. But there's a question that I can't figure out." The black-clothed man sneered. "Young miss, don't talk nonsense with her." Guo Sueki glanced at the confused Gao Shaohui and waved her hand at the black-clothed man. Then, she looked at Gao Shaohui and said, "Speak. The strength of our two families has always been on par. But why was my father's army wiped out in the land of the dead?" Gao Shaohui said. Hearing this, Guo Sueki lowered her head. Her eyes flickered. Seeing that Guo Sueki was silent, the black-clothed man stared at Gao Shaohui arrogantly and said, "Nonsense. Of course it's because the Guo family is stronger than the Gao family." "Impossible. In this battle in the land of the dead, both our families have the same number of people and divine weapons. Even if the Gao family loses, it's impossible for them to be wiped out." Gao Shaohui shouted. "Battle?" Qin Feiyong was stunned. What was going on? Originally, he had thought that the Guo and Gao families were fighting over something in the land of the undead, and that was why they were fighting. But he did not expect it to be a battle. Then why did these two great clans want to fight? To fight for territory? That seemed to be the case. Because now, all the villages controlled by the Gao family had been taken over by the Guo family. Guo Sueki was silent for a long time. Then she looked up at Gao Shaohui and said coldly, "A loss is a loss. Why are you still asking so many questions?" Gao Shaohui shouted, "I don't believe that the Guo family has the ability. So, you must have used some despicable means." "How dare you? The Guo family is upright. How can we use despicable means as you think?" Guo Sueki said angrily. Gao Shaohui said, "Since you are upright, why are you beating around the bush?" "I'm not." Guo Sueki shook her head. "Haha, Guo Sueki, I didn't expect there to be something that you can't talk about. It seems that the Guo family's victory is not glorious." Gao Shaohui laughed out loud, his face full of mockery. Hearing this, Guo Sueki clenched her fingers and said in a low voice, "Fine, I'll tell you. The reason why the Gao family was wiped out in the land of the dead was because of one person." "Because of one person?" Gao Shaohui was stunned. She said angrily, "Who is so capable?" "My..." Guo Sueki took a deep breath and said, "My fiancé." "Fiancé?" Gao Shaohui's face was full of surprise. She asked, "Why didn't I know that you have a fiancé? I didn't know before. Grandfather and father only told me about it recently." Guo Sueki sighed. "Fiancé," Gao Shaohui murmured and smiled sadly. "I didn't expect that the Guo family would have such a powerful person." "Shut up. I, Guo Sueki, don't need to rely on anyone. Even without him, with my talent, I can destroy the Gao family sooner or later." Guo Sueki shouted. Literature Center. Chapter 1932. Qin Dage, why do I feel like your fiancé is a disgrace in her eyes? Fire Lotus looked at Guo Sueki and asked suspiciously. She's not only an arrogant woman, she's also a very conceited and prideful woman. She doesn't want people to say that the Guo family relied on me to get rid of the Gao family. So when Gao Shaohui said that the Guo family had hooked up with a powerful person, to her the word hooked up is a disgrace. Qin Feiyong smiled faintly. "So you're saying that she's unhappy that you interfered with the Guo and Gao family in the land of the dead?" Fire Lotus was stunned. Qin Feiyong nodded. She really doesn't know what's good for her. Fire Lotus shook her head. If it wasn't for Qin Feiyong, the final outcome would have been unpredictable. "Actually, I don't care about any of this. I just want to know if the marriage contract is real or fake." But now it seems that Guo Sueki doesn't know either. Qin Feiyong frowned. Outside, Gao Shaohui looked at Guo Sueki and said, "I have no more questions, please give me a quick death." "Okay." Guo Sueki nodded. The fire dragon divine sword in her hand emitted a destructive aura. However, just as she raised the fire dragon divine sword, just as Gao Shaohui was about to die under the sword, she suddenly disappeared without a trace. Guo Sueki's arm froze, the fire dragon divine sword stopped in the air, and immediately released her divine sense in all directions. At the same time, The black-robed man's expression changed greatly, and he also released his divine sense. But the two of them searched tens of thousands of miles and didn't find the aura of a stranger, nor any traces of a spatial divine object. "Miss, what's going on?" The black-robed man ran in front of Gwasweki and exclaimed. "Strange." Gwasweki didn't answer. She looked around at the void, her bright eyes full of suspicion. The Black Tortoise world. A woman suddenly appeared in front of Qin Feiyong and Fire Lotus. It was Gao Xiaohui. That was right. The person who saved Gao Xiaohui from Gwasweki's sword was Qin Feiyong. At this moment, Gao Xiaohui also sized up this unfamiliar place with a look of surprise and bewilderment. Fire Lotus glanced at Gao Xiaohui and asked through telepathy, "Qin Dage, why are you saving her again?" Qin Feiyong secretly laughed and said, "The heavens are virtuous." When Fire Lotus heard this, she pouted. "Who are you? Where is this?" At this moment, Gao Xiaohui retracted her gaze and looked at Qin Feiyong warily. "Don't worry. If we wanted to harm you, we wouldn't have saved you just now," Qin Feiyong said with a smile. Gao Xiaohui did not let her guard down because of this. She asked curiously, "Why did you save me? I don't even know you." "We really don't know each other, but saving a life is better than building a 7-floor pagoda. Just think of me as a good person," Qin Feiyong said. "Good person." Gao Xiaohui sized up the two and said with a flattering smile, "Don't pretend. What is your purpose? Just tell me. In this world, who wasn't selfish? How could there be a good person? So hard to be a good person. It's really frustrating." Qin Feiyong shook his head. Fire Lotus covered her mouth and laughed. "It's not that it's hard to be a good person. It's just that you look like a bad person." Qin Feiyong was stunned and shook his head helplessly. He looked at Gao Xiaohui and said, "Take us to the Gua family." "The Gua family?" Gao Xiaohui was slightly surprised and said, "Why are you going to the Gua family? Did these two have a grudge against the Gua family?" "That's none of your business. As long as we go to the Gua family, I will let you go," Qin Feiyong said. Gao Xiaohui was taken aback and quickly asked, "Really? A gentleman never goes back on his word," Qin Feiyong said and looked up at the image in the sky. Gwasweki had already left with the man in black. Gao Xiaohui also looked at Gwasweki's back and asked suspiciously, "Brother, where are we now? Why can't Gwasweki's immortal will find us?" "Here," Qin Feiyong's eyes twinkled and said with a smile, "You are in my divine dimension item." "Divine dimension item?" Gao Xiaohui looked around in shock and mumbled, "A divine dimension item can escape the detection of immortal will. Maybe it's because my divine dimension item's level is a bit high, so immortal will can't find it." Qin Feiyong smiled. "A divine dimension item that immortal will can't find? What level is it?" Gao Xiaohui was so shocked that she couldn't close her mouth. Fire Lotus was speechless. She actually believed your nonsense. How naive is this girl? How can anyone who has reached the divine war realm be naive? She didn't believe me at all. She's just pretending to be naive because she's in our hands, Qin Feiyong said telepathically. Pretending to be naive? Fire Lotus glanced at Gao Xiaohui and her eyes twinkled. "There's no need to expose her," Qin Feiyong said and then looked at Gao Xiaohui with a smile. "I'm a man of my words. Lead the way." Gao Xiaohui said, "Let's go southeast." Qin Feiyong immediately controlled the Black Tortoise world and under Gao Xiaohui's guidance. It took them half an hour to arrive at a city. The city was located in the middle of a mountain and was about a dozen miles in size. Every street in the city was bustling with activity. Looking at the city outside through the Black Tortoise world, Gao Xiaohui's eyes were filled with hatred. "Do you hate the Gua family?" Qin Feiyong asked with a smile. "Of course. My Gao clan used to be as prosperous as this, but in a single night we were all massacred. The Gua family is despicable. Gwasweki's fiancé is even more despicable." Gao Xiaohui clenched her fists and said. Qin Feiyong was stunned and asked calmly, "Why do you hate Gwasweki's fiancé? If it wasn't for him, would my father and the others have been wiped out in the land of the dead? If my father and the others hadn't died, would the Gua family have slaughtered my people and destroyed my family's land?" Gao Xiaohui said angrily, "You can't blame him for this. After all, he's Gwasweki's fiancé. It's natural for him to help the Gua family deal with your Gao family," Qin Feiyong said. What do you mean natural? He and Gwasweki aren't even married yet. What right does he have to interfere with the grudges between our families? Gao Shaohui glared at Qin Feiyong and said, Okay. Take it that I've said too much. Forget it. Qin Feiyong hurriedly waved his hand and drove the Black Tortoise realm into the city. Wait, didn't you say that you would let me go after we arrived at the Guo family? Gao Shaohui said hurriedly. Are you sure you want to go out? Qin Feiyong asked. Yes. Gao Shaohui nodded. She felt that the man and woman in front of her were a little too mysterious. It was better to leave as soon as possible. Qin Feiyong nodded and said with a smile, Okay, I'll send you out now. Now. Gao Shaohui was stunned and immediately became angry. She shouted, You've already entered the city. Isn't sending me to my death if you send me out? Why are you so unreasonable? Didn't you say you wanted to go out? Qin Feiyong frowned. Gao Shaohui was so angry that she gritted her teeth and trembled. She did say that she wanted to go out, but she didn't say that she wanted to go out here. How much time would it take if he sent her out of the city first? If you don't dare to go out, then shut up. Qin Feiyong glanced at her indifferently, and then carefully observed the situation in the city. There were more than 100,000 people in the entire city. Every one of them had the aura of cultivation. In other words, there wasn't a single mortal in this city. Moreover, he sensed hundreds of fake gods' auras. Hundreds of fake gods. Just the Guo family alone was already so powerful. The ancient world was truly a frightening place. Qin Feiyong controlled the Black Tortoise realm and flew straight to the center of the city. Because in the central area, he sensed dozens of war gods' auras. One of them was especially terrifying. It was a perfect war god. Needless to say, the owner of this aura must be the Guo family's old patriarch. However, the old patriarch's aura revealed a trace of weakness. Very soon, Qin Feiyong controlled the Black Tortoise realm and landed in the sky above a courtyard. This courtyard was located in the center of the city and occupied a large area. There was a small stream, a rockery, a pavilion, and a garden. Beside one of the rockery, there was a two-story pavilion. The pavilion looked very old and the decorations were very simple, but it was very clean and tidy. It really surprised me, Qin Feiyong said with a smile. He thought that this place would be quite luxurious, but he didn't expect it to be so simple. The first impression it gave was quite good. That's not right. Why is this place different from what I've seen before? Gao Shaohui's voice suddenly sounded. Qin Feiyong was stunned and turned to look at Gao Shaohui. He saw Gao Shaohui scanning the courtyard with a puzzled expression. What's different? Qin Feiyong asked suspiciously. I know the Guo family's situation very well. In the past, this place could be said to be filled with jewelry and splendor. Why has it become so simple now? What the hell is the Guo family doing? Are they hiding something? Gao Shaohui shook her head with a puzzled expression. Filled with jewelry and splendor. What are they hiding? Qin Feiyong frowned. Gao Shaohui's words were somewhat thought-provoking. Swish. Suddenly, a middle-aged man appeared in the courtyard out of thin air. It was Guo Zixiong. Father. Guo Zixiong walked to the front of the pavilion and called out softly. Creak. After a while, the door of the pavilion opened and a white-haired old man in black walked out slowly with a silver-white walking stick. Gao Shaohui said. He is the old patriarch of the Guo family, Gwasweki's grandfather. Old patriarch. Qin Feiyong looked at the old man and Guo Zixiong, his eyes flickering. After the old patriarch came out, Guo Zixiong immediately went forward to support him and asked with concern, Father, how are your injuries? This Gao Guofeng's strength is indeed not simple. Facing my attack, although he was not prepared at all, he still seriously injured me. The old patriarch sighed deeply and looked at Guo Zixiong with a smile. But don't worry, it's not a big problem. That's good. Guo Zixiong breathed a sigh of relief. The old patriarch asked, Have you found Gao Guofeng and Gao Shaohui? Chapter 1933. Guo Zixiong said, I came here to report this matter to you, father. Speak. The old patriarch said. Guo Zixiong said, Xueqi sent me a message saying that she found Gao Guofeng and killed him. Good. That lass is indeed our Guo family's pride. The old patriarch was elated when he heard the news. Yes, even though Gao Guofeng's soul was damaged, his strength shouldn't be underestimated. Being able to kill him is enough to prove Xueqi's ability. Guo Zixiong said with a smile. It's all thanks to you, father. The old patriarch laughed heartily. Guo Zixiong hurriedly waved his hand and said, No, no, no. I don't dare to take all the credit. If you hadn't spent so much effort to nurture Xueqi, would she have her current achievements? You stinking brat, why are you still being so polite with me? The old patriarch rolled his eyes at Guo Zixiong. Guo Zixiong smiled embarrassedly and said, But what? The old patriarch was suspicious. The smile on Guo Zixiong's face disappeared, and he said solemnly, Gao Shaohui didn't die. What? Gao Guofeng died, so why didn't Gao Shaohui die? Did Gao Shaohui break through to the low-level war god realm? The old patriarch was shocked. No. Guo Zixiong shook his head. The old patriarch was puzzled. If she didn't break through, how did she escape from Xueqi's hands? Guo Zixiong said, according to Xueqi, she was rescued by someone. Someone? What does that mean? The old patriarch was puzzled. It means that Xueqi didn't see the person who rescued Gao Shaohui. She didn't even see his shadow. He just disappeared into thin air. Guo Zixiong said. Disappeared into thin air. The old patriarch muttered. His gaze was gloomy. Suddenly, he thought of something and said in shock, Could it be Gao Xiaolong? Impossible. If it was Gao Xiaolong, he would definitely kill Xueqi before leaving. However, the person who rescued Gao Shaohui didn't make a move against Xueqi. Guo Zixiong shook his head. This is strange. If it wasn't Gao Xiaolong, who could it be? The old patriarch frowned. The black tortoise whirled. Qin Feiyang looked at Guo Zixiong and Gao Xiaolong on the screen and asked, Gao Shaohui, who is Gao Xiaolong? Gao Shaohui said, Gao Xiaolong is my older brother. Blood brother? Qin Feiyang was stunned. He turned to look at Gao Shaohui and said, The person your grandfather asked you to find is him? That's right. My brother is much stronger than Guo Xueqi. If my brother was here, the Guo family wouldn't dare to do anything to the Gao family even if they were given hundreds of guts. Gao Shaohui coldly snorted. Then where is he now? Qin Feiyang was suspicious. Gao Shaohui replied, 9 Heavens Palace. 9 Heavens Palace? Qin Feiyang was stunned. He looked at the fire lotus and asked, Where is the 9 Heavens Palace? I don't know either. Fire Lotus shook her head. What? You don't even know about 9 Heavens Palace. Are you people from this continent or not? Gao Shaohui looked at the two of them in shock. Cough cough. Qin Feiyang coughed dryly and smiled. We siblings have been living in seclusion with our master since we were young, so we don't know anything about the outside world. Even if you live in seclusion, it's impossible for you not to know about 9 Heavens Palace. 9 Heavens Palace is very famous. In the entire northern region, who doesn't know about it? Gao Shaohui said. Qin Feiyang said calmly, It's that famous? Of course. 9 Heavens Palace is the strongest force in the northern region. It can even be said that it's the ruler of the northern region. The disciples of 9 Heavens Palace, no matter where they go, they are respected by thousands of people. And my brother is a disciple of 9 Heavens Palace. When he returned home last year, he had already broken through to the high-level war god realm. Gao Shaohui said proudly. So powerful? Qin Feiyang and Fire Lotus revealed a shocked expression, but they were pondering in their hearts. Outside, the old patriarch took a deep breath, raised his head and looked at Guo Zixiong. It's best if we can find Gao Shaohui, but it doesn't matter if we can't. The most important thing now is to quickly take over the Gao family's territory. What about Gao Xiaolong? This person is a disciple of 9 Heavens Palace, and his talent is outstanding. Keeping him alive will always be a threat. Guo Zixiong asked. Gao Xiaolong, the old patriarch pondered for a moment. A cold light flashed across his eyes, and he sneered, Don't worry, this old man has already made arrangements. Guo Zixiong was startled for a moment, then came to a realization and laughed. Father is indeed a treasured blade. Haha. The old patriarch laughed and said, Go and do your work. Yes. Guo Zixiong respectfully replied, then turned and left. Wait. But suddenly, the old patriarch called out to Guo Zixiong again. Guo Zixiong turned his head and asked suspiciously, "Father, do you have any other orders?" The old patriarch said, "Is there still no news of Qin Feiyang?" "No." Guo Zixiong shook his head. "It's already been a few days, why is there still no news of him? Could it be that he has already died in that mountain range?" The old patriarch was bewildered. "I don't know," Guo Zixiong said. The old patriarch thought for a moment, then gritted his teeth and said, "No, this old man must go and take a look personally." "Father, you mustn't. There are ferocious beasts everywhere in that mountain range. Not to mention that you are injured now. Even if you were in your peak condition, once you set foot in there, it would be difficult for you to escape unscathed." Guo Zixiong's face changed, and he hurriedly said, "Of course this old man knows. But you know how important Qin Feiyang is to our Guo family. If something happens to him, then our efforts will be in vain." The old patriarch said in a low voice, "I know." Guo Zixiong nodded, and after a moment of silence he smiled. "Father, how about this? You rest well, and I will go and look for him." "Okay." The old patriarch nodded and said, "You must find him, and make sure that he and Xueqi get married smoothly." "I understand." Guo Zixiong nodded. The old patriarch waved his hand, indicating for Guo Zixiong to leave, but then he suddenly said, "Oh, by the way, does Xueqi have any objections to this marriage?" Guo Zixiong sighed and said, "This lass is somewhat resistant to it. For the sake of our Guo family's future, even if she is resistant, she must get married. After all, that marriage contract was forged with great difficulty by imitating Qin Beixian's handwriting, and it was also with great difficulty that I managed to make Qin Feiyang believe it. So we mustn't let this lass's stubbornness ruin all of our efforts." The old patriarch said, "I understand, and I will try my best to persuade her." Guo Zixiong nodded and replied, "Moreover, only Guoda, you and I know whether the marriage contract is real or fake. You mustn't tell anyone else, especially Xueqi. Go." After the old patriarch spoke, he waved his hand. "I will take my leave." Guo Zixiong bowed respectfully, then turned around and left with large strides. "Oh, this marriage contract is really fake." The Black Tortoise whirled. Qin Feiyang clenched his fists, and his eyes flashed with shocking killing intent. "So Guo Xueqi's fiancé is Qin Feiyang. That damned bastard. He harmed my Gao family. I will not let him off." Just as Qin Feiyang was feeling vexed, Gao Xiaohui's voice suddenly rang out. Qin Feiyang turned to look at Gao Xiaohui and saw that her face was filled with resentment. Qin Feiyang could not help but smile bitterly in his heart. He did not expect to get into so much trouble as soon as he arrived in the ancient world. What a headache! Fire Lotus glanced at Gao Xiaohui and said telepathically, "Qin Dage, the Gao family is really innocent." Qin Feiyang sighed and said, "It's my fault. I acted rashly without investigating properly." "Then what should we do now?" Fire Lotus asked in her heart. "Since they dared to trick me, they will have to pay the price." Qin Feiyang's eyes flashed with a cold light. "I am asking Gao Xiaohui how to deal with this matter," Fire Lotus said in her heart. Qin Feiyang glanced at Gao Xiaohui and frowned. Gao Xiaohui did not know that the enemy she was looking for was right next to her. She lowered her head and frowned. There was a trace of suspicion on her face. Qin Feiyang sighed in his heart and asked with a smile, "Miss Xiaohui, what are you thinking about?" Gao Xiaohui glanced at Qin Feiyang and said indifferently, "I am thinking that the name Qin Batian sounds familiar." "Familiar?" Qin Feiyang was stunned. He hurriedly grabbed Gao Xiaohui's hand and asked, "Are you sure?" Gao Xiaohui was taken aback by this sudden turn of events. Chapter 1934. Qin Dage, don't forget that this is the ancient world. Although your ancestor was a famous figure in the Great Qin and the Forgotten Continent, he's nothing here, as Guo Zixiong said. So it's not impossible for him to enter the Nine Heaven Palace. Fire Lotus saw through Qin Feiyang's thoughts and secretly said, "That's true." Qin Feiyang nodded. After all, when his ancestor left, he was only a low-stage war god. Qin Feiyang looked at Gao Xiaohui and asked, "Apart from the fact that Qin Batian is a disciple of the Nine Heaven Palace, do you know anything else?" "I'm not sure about that. Because I'm usually focused on cultivation, I don't know much about the outside world." Gao Xiaohui shook her head. Qin Feiyang's eyes flashed. It seemed that he had to make a trip to the Nine-Heaven Palace to find out where his ancestor was. Wait. There was no way the Guo family would go through so much trouble to forge a marriage contract without any reason. Maybe Guo Zixiong and the old family head knew something? Whoosh! With this thought, Qin Feiyong looked at the image in the air again. After Guo Zixiong left, the old family head had already entered the pavilion. Fire Lotus said, "Qin Dage, just kill this Gao Xiaohui so that she won't bring you trouble in the future. There's no rush, let's deal with the Guo family first." Qin Feiyong's eyes flashed with killing intent. He controlled the Black Tortoise realm and silently entered the pavilion. Soon he found the old family head. The old family head was sitting cross-legged on the bed in the bedroom on the second floor, closing his eyes and recuperating. What's going on? Gao Xiaohui looked at the old family head, then suspiciously looked at Qin Feiyong. Why did this person look like he wanted to harm the old family head? But wasn't this the first time this pair of brother and sister came out? Why did they have a grudge with the Guo family? No, this man and woman's identity definitely wasn't that simple. Thinking of this, Gao Xiaohui's eyes flashed. Who? Qin Feiyong stared at the old patriarch and took a deep breath. He then turned to Fire Lotus and said, "Keep an eye on Gao Xiao." "All right." Fire Lotus nodded. Qin Feiyong waved his hand, and the image in the void disappeared. Then a blood-red sword light emerged from his palm. Gao Xiaohui's body began to tremble. What was that? How could it contain such a terrifying killing intent? Outside, the old clan leader's expression was serene. He did not notice that danger was approaching at all. Whoosh! Suddenly, a terrifying killing intent surged. The old patriarch was shocked and immediately opened his eyes. However, the moment he opened his eyes, he felt a sharp pain in his lower abdomen. He looked down and saw that there was a bloody hole in his lower abdomen. Immediately after, that heart-wrenching pain caused him to cry out in pain. At the same time, inside a large hall, Guo Zixiong and Guo De stood opposite each other. Guo Zixiong said, "Second uncle, I'm going to look for Qin Feiyong. Help me deal with the matters of the clan first." "Okay, be careful," Guo De reminded. Guo Zixiong nodded and opened an altar. However, at this moment, the two of them suddenly felt a terrifying killing intent and the scream of the old patriarch. What's going on? The two of them were surprised. Not good, its father's voice. "Second uncle, quick!" Guo Zixiong exclaimed. The two of them immediately rushed out of the hall and rushed towards the courtyard. One of them was a greater success war god and the other was a lesser success war god. Naturally, their speed was extraordinary. In just 2 blinks of an eye, they reached the top of the attic and directly rushed into the old patriarch's bedroom from the balcony on the second floor. However, there was no one in the bedroom. "Father!" Guo Zixiong called out anxiously. Guo De immediately released his divine sense to search the courtyard. His face gradually turned pale as he looked at Guo Zixiong and said, "I can't find any trace of your father. Second uncle, Lord Father might have met with misfortune. Look." Guo Zixiong pointed at the bed. There was a pool of blood on it. How could this be? Guo De looked at the blood and his eyes trembled. "Quickly inform all the war gods and false gods in the clan to stop what they're doing and go look for father. If he's alive, I want to see him. If he's dead, I want to see his corpse." Guo Zixiong shouted. "Okay." Guo De nodded and hurriedly left. The realm of Black Tortoise. Deep in the desert, an old man with white hair stood in the yellow sand while holding his bleeding abdomen. It was the old patriarch. However, at this moment, he looked up at the sky, his eyes filled with shock and fear. In the sky, Qin Feiyong stood with his back facing the old patriarch with his hands behind his back. There was an image in the sky in front of him. The image was showing the scene inside the attic. He silently looked at Guo Zixiong in the image. His eyes were filled with coldness. "Who are you? What conflict do I have with you? Why do you want to harm me?" Seeing that Qin Feiyong didn't speak for a long time, the old patriarch shouted anxiously. Because Qin Feiyong's back was facing him, he didn't know that the person standing in front of him was Qin Feiyong. "Who am I?" Qin Feiyong murmured and said indifferently, "Haven't you been looking for me? Now that I'm standing in front of you, you still don't know who I am?" "Been looking for you?" Are you crazy? Do I know you? The old patriarch said angrily. Qin Feiyong waved his hand and the image disappeared. Then, he slowly turned around and faced the old patriarch. The old patriarch's eyes immediately widened in disbelief. Qin Feiyong said, "It seems that Guozixiong has already told you my appearance." "You are Qin Feiyong." The old patriarch was shocked. "Yes." Qin Feiyong nodded. "Why is he in my Guo family?" The old patriarch's eyes trembled and hurriedly said with a smile, "So you are Feiyong. You are indeed a dragon among men. But Feiyong, why are you doing this?" "Why?" Qin Feiyong raised the corner of his mouth and said with a smile, "Don't you know very well in your heart? This is bad." Could it be that he heard my conversation with Guozixiong? The old patriarch's eyelids twitched, but he pretended to be innocent and said suspiciously, "What do I know? What are you talking about? I don't understand." "You don't understand?" Qin Feiyong smiled. "Even now you're still playing dumb?" He said, "You spent a lot of effort to forge that marriage contract, right? Damn it." The old patriarch cursed secretly. Sure enough, he heard the conversation between him and Guozixiong. But what was the reason for this? For this plan they were careful at every step. How could this kid notice the clues? Qin Feiyong said, "Now are you wondering why such a perfect plan was discovered by me?" The old patriarch nodded instinctively. "Because of the ancestor," Qin Feiyong said with a faint smile. The old patriarch said in surprise, "You've seen Qin Batian?" "No. Even now, I still don't know whether the ancestor is alive or dead," Qin Feiyong said. The old patriarch said in surprise, "Then why do you say it's because of Qin Batian?" "It's very simple. The ancestor is such a wise person. It's impossible for him to leave behind such a ridiculous marriage contract. Therefore, when I first saw the marriage contract, I was already suspicious. But that marriage contract, you forged it so perfectly that it could be passed off as the real thing. So I didn't dare to make a judgment at that time. So when I left the land of the dead, I found an excuse to leave in order to investigate the character of the Guo family. And the result was very disappointing. The Guo family bullied others with their power and had a notorious record. The ancestor didn't like people like you at all, let alone a marriage alliance with you. So I began to believe that the marriage contract was fake. Coincidentally, I also met Guo Sueki and rescued Gao Xiaoyi from her hands. Then under Gao Xiaoyi's lead, I sneaked into the Guo family. Speaking of which, this trip was really worth it. I just happened to hear your conversation with Guozixiong," Qin Feiyong said with a smile. "I see," the old patriarch muttered. His heart was also incomparably shocked. It was really terrifying to have such a scheming mind at such a young age. "Now I have a few questions. As long as you answer me truthfully, I can guarantee that you will have an intact corpse," Qin Feiyong said. The old patriarch collapsed on the ground powerlessly and said, "I have nothing to say. If you want to kill me, just kill me." As expected, I still have to use the puppet technique. Qin Feiyong sighed. Chapter 1935. Before reaching the war god realm, as long as his Sea of Qi was destroyed, he could control the other party no matter how high their cultivation was. Because at that time, his soul hadn't evolved into a divine soul. But now it was different. On one hand, he had to consider his cultivation. On the other hand, he had to consider his divine soul. In short, he couldn't use a divine art like the puppet art as easily as before. Even the seal of enslavement was the same, unless the other party was willing. "Looks like I have to resort to some extreme measures." Qin Feiyong wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth and looked at the old patriarch with a smile. "The Gao family must have suffered a terrible fate. What do you want to do?" The old patriarch's body trembled as he roared. "Since the Gao family is gone, there's no need for the Guo family to exist. I might as well help Gao Xiaoyi take revenge for the extermination of her clan." Qin Feiyong faintly smiled. "You," the old patriarch glared at Qin Feiyong and said, "Don't forget that you have something to do with the destruction of the Gao family." "That's right. But I didn't kill anyone from the Gao family. Even in the land of the dead, I only destroyed the patriarch's cultivation. In the end, he died in the hands of Guozixiong. Plus, as long as the Guo family is gone, no one will know about it." Qin Feiyong smiled. You devil, aren't you afraid of being punished? The old patriarch roared. If you're not afraid, why should I be? Qin Feiyong said with a faint smile. Fine. I'll tell you everything you want to know. Just let my family go. After all, we gave you a lot of soul stones. The old patriarch stared at Qin Feiyong coldly, but in the end he compromised. He had to compromise. He had seen Qin Feiyong's strength with his own eyes. If he really attacked, no one in the Guo family could stop him. Don't make it sound so righteous. If you didn't want to harm me, why would you give me soul stones? Even if I kneel on the ground and beg you, you won't give me a single soul stone. But then again, I really have to thank you. If it weren't for the soul stones you gave me, I wouldn't have been able to break through to War God so quickly. Now, I'm afraid I can only be at your mercy, Qin Feiyong said with a smile. Hearing this, the old patriarch was so angry that he vomited blood. His intestines were green with regret. If he had known this would happen, he would never have given this human soul stone to him. He sat weakly on the ground and said, Ask away. I asked you to answer before, but you didn't. Now I don't want to ask anymore. It's a waste of time. Qin Feiyong formed another seal, and the puppet imprint appeared once more. Stop resisting, or I'll really slaughter your Guo family. After saying that, Qin Feiyong waved his hand, and the puppet imprint pierced through the void and disappeared into the old patriarch's head. The old patriarch hesitated for a moment before finally giving up on resisting. Very soon, the puppet technique was completed. Qin Feiyong did not delay and immediately began to read the old patriarch's memories. The old patriarch immediately howled miserably like a pig being slaughtered. He felt as if his soul was being forcefully torn apart. Gradually, Qin Feiyong's face was filled with joy. Soon, that joyful expression turned into one of ecstasy. Haha, finally. Qin Feiyong could not help but laugh and cry. At the same time, inside the ancient castle, Tantai Li and Qin Rushuang had already woken up from their seclusion. The mother and daughter stood together with a look of anticipation and nervousness. Suddenly, an invisible force enveloped them. The mother and daughter both appeared beside Qin Feiyong. Feiyong. The two of them looked at Qin Feiyong. They wanted to ask but did not dare to. Qin Feiyong stopped laughing, looked at the mother and daughter with tears in his eyes, and said, Great-grandmother, the ancestor, What happened to him? Tantai Li hurriedly asked. Qin Feiyong's tone was choked, and there was a trace of grief on his face. Qin Rushuang urged, Feiyong, what happened? Hurry up and tell us. Ancestor. Qin Feiyong lowered his head, a trace of grief creeping onto his face. Could it be that father? Impossible. If father is dead, why did you laugh so loudly before? The mother and daughter looked at Qin Feiyong, their faces pale. Qin Feiyong lowered his head and said, I laughed because the ancestor was indeed in the ancient realm, but now, hearing this, the mother and daughter immediately collapsed powerlessly. Their expressions were filled with grief. Haha, I'm teasing you. The ancestor is still alive now. Qin Feiyong laughed loudly. Alive. Their eyes trembled. Qin Feiyong squatted on the ground, grabbed their hands and said, This time I'm not teasing you. The ancestor is really still alive. You bastard. How can you joke about such an important matter? The mother and daughter looked at each other and were immediately furious. They raised their fists and hammered Qin Feiyong's body like a storm. Qin Feiyong did not resist and looked at the mother and daughter with a smile on his face. He was very happy that the ancestor was not dead, because the ancestor had always been his goal, and it could even be said that he worshipped and idolized him. However, the two women in front of him were definitely happier than him. On the side, the old patriarch looked at Qin Feiyong and the other two, his eyes constantly flickering. Suddenly, he got up and ran for his life without looking back. Seeing this, the mother and daughter finally calmed down and hurriedly reminded Qin Feiyong. Qin Feiyong waved his hand and smiled. Not to mention now, the old patriarch's cultivation was crippled. Even if his cultivation was still there, the entire Black Tortoise realm was his. Where could he run to? There was no need to care at all. The mother and daughter looked at each other and looked at the old patriarch's back, and could not help but sympathize. Qin Rushuang asked Feiyong, Where is father now? How long will it take to find him? This, on the contrary, Qin Feiyang became hesitant. What's wrong? Are you trying to scare us again? I'm telling you, if you do this again, I won't let you off easily. Tantai raised her eyebrows. No. Qin Feiyang hurriedly waved his hand and sighed. To tell you the truth, the old patriarch doesn't know much. What do you mean? The mother and daughter became nervous again. Don't be so nervous. Back then, the ancestor never returned after leaving the Guo family. Therefore, Guo Zixiong and the old patriarch only know some rumors about the ancestor. Qin Feiyang said. What rumors? Tantai asked. It is said that the ancestor entered the Empyrean Palace back then, and made a name for himself. It can be said that during that period, no one did not know the ancestor's name. Qin Feiyang said. Since he is so famous, why did that child named Gao Xiaohui only remember him after thinking for a long time? And he knows so little. Tantai was puzzled. This is because, as early as 6,000 to 7,000 years ago, our ancestor had already disappeared without a trace. There are rumors that the ancestor is in seclusion. There are also rumors that the ancestor became a core figure of the Empyrean Palace and did not appear in the world. There are even rumors that the ancestor went to travel the continent. Think about it, the ancestor disappeared 6,000 to 7,000 years ago. Gao Xiaohui was not even born at that time, so how could she know? Not to mention Gao Xiaohui, according to the memories of the old patriarch of the Guo family, there are not many people in the northern region who still know about the ancestor. Qin Feiyang said. Disappear without a trace? The mother and daughter looked at each other. Qin Rushuang said. Then the clues are broken again? Moreover, how can a person disappear unless he is dead? You have to believe in the ancestor. With his ability, it is absolutely impossible for him to die. As for the clues, they will not be broken. Qin Feiyang said with a smile. What do you mean? Qin Rushuang was suspicious. Others may not know the whereabouts of the ancestor, but the upper echelons of the Empyrean Palace will definitely know. Qin Feiyang said. Yes. Since father has stayed in the Empyrean Palace, then the people of the Empyrean Palace will definitely know his whereabouts. Feiyang, let's go to the Empyrean Palace immediately. Qin Rushuang urged. Look at how anxious you are. Qin Feiyang smiled helplessly and sighed. The Empyrean Palace is not a place that everyone can enter. Qin Rushuang and Tantai looked at each other and looked at Qin Feiyang suspiciously. Let me explain it to you like this. The Empyrean Palace's position in the northern region is equivalent to the imperial capital of the Great Qin Empire and the Great Tower of the Forgotten Continent. One must go through layers of tests before one can enter. And those who can enter the Empyrean Palace are basically the favored ones of the heavens. Therefore, this matter cannot be rushed. Qin Feiyang said with a smile. Hearing this, Tantai looked at Qin Rushuang and smiled bitterly. It seems that there is still a long way to go before we can find and reunite with your father. Qin Rushuang clenched her fists and said firmly, no matter how difficult it is, I must find him. Tantai rubbed Qin Rushuang's head and felt sorry for her. Then, she looked at Qin Feiyang and asked, why did the Guo family forge the marriage contract? Because of ambition. The Guo family is not willing to continue struggling at the bottom of the ancient world. So they want to use me to establish a relationship with the ancestor. Because with the ancestor's position in the Empyrean Palace, as long as I marry Guo Sueki, it will be equivalent to having the Empyrean Palace as a backer. Even if the ancestor is not in the Empyrean Palace now, with the ancestor's prestige, the Guo family can still reap many benefits. The most important thing is the purple gold dragon blood. Qin Feiyang said. Purple gold dragon blood? The mother and daughter frowned. Yes, the purple gold dragon blood flowing in the ancestor's body is no longer a secret in the northern region. There are even rumors that the reason the ancestor has such heaven-defying talent and can rise in such a short time is entirely because of the purple gold dragon blood. Therefore, the Guo family wants me to marry Guo Sueki and give birth to a few descendants with the purple gold dragon blood. In this way, the Guo family can still rise even without the ancestors and my help. Qin Feiyang said. So that's how it is. The Guo family is really scheming. They are completely using you as a tool to give birth to children. Qin Rushuang covered her mouth and laughed. Qin Feiyang's face was full of helplessness. Tantai said. Does Gwasweki know about this? No. Qin Feiyang shook his head. She can't even control her own marriage. She doesn't even know anything. What a pitiful child. Tantai shook her head and sighed. After pondering for a while, she said, by the way, how is the relationship between your ancestor and the Guo family? Literature Museum. Chapter 1936. Qin Feiyang pondered for a while and frowned. I can't explain their relationship. Didn't you read the old patriarch's memory? Why can't you explain it clearly? The mother and daughter were puzzled. Qin Feiyang said, back then our ancestor stayed with the Guo family for a while, and then left without saying goodbye. The Guo family members don't know what he was thinking. Left without saying goodbye? Tantai frowned. Mother, did you think of something? Qin Rushuang asked. Tantai said, your father has a good character. If there wasn't a special reason, he wouldn't have left without saying goodbye. Qin Rushuang said, then what do you think the special reason is? I think he might have found out about the Guo family's character but didn't want to reveal it, so he left without saying a word. Tantai said. Qin Feiyang's eyes lit up and he said with a smile, Great-grandmother, what you said makes sense. Tantai waved her hand and said with a smile, I'm just guessing and don't take it seriously. However, Guo Zisheng's family has a good plan. Mother, why are you still praising them? Qin Rushuang was a little dissatisfied. Of course I have to praise them. You dare to scheme against Feiyang? How audacious. Tantai chuckled. Qin Feiyang and Qin Rushuang looked at each other. Why did Tantai's tone sound a little off? Tantai looked at Qin Feiyang with a smile and asked, Feiyang, what do you think we should do? It seems that great-grandmother is angry. Qin Feiyang muttered to himself, but he was very touched. Great-grandmother was angry because the Guo family had schemed against him. In other words, she was fighting for him. Qin Feiyang pondered for a while and shook his head. To tell you the truth, great-grandmother, I've thought about this seriously. I originally wanted to destroy the Guo family directly, but now I don't want to do it. You don't want to do it? Tantai raised her eyebrows. This wasn't the kid's personality at all. Think so. The Gao family was exterminated because of me. I have to do something to make it up to them. Qin Feiyang smiled. I see. You want Gao Xiaohui to deal with the Guo clan? Tantai suddenly understood. Qin Feiyang waved his hand and said, No, Gao Xiaohui alone is not enough. Who else? Tantai asked. Gao Xiaolong. According to Gao Xiaohui, this person broke through to the advanced stage of the battle god realm last year. As long as the old patriarch, a perfect battle god, dies, I believe that with his identity as a disciple of the Nine Heaven Palace, it will be easy for him to destroy the Guo family. Qin Feiyang smiled. Qin Rushuang frowned. Feiyang, why do I feel like you're using someone else to do your dirty work? Go. How can you call this killing with a borrowed knife? I'm just being nice. Qin Feiyang said unhappily. I can't tell. Qin Rushuang pursed her lips. Tantai smiled. Rushuang, you don't understand. Feiyang is doing this to prepare for entering the Nine Heaven Palace. What do you mean? Qin Rushuang was suspicious. Think about it. We are strangers in the ancient world. Who will help us enter the Nine Heaven Palace? But it's different with Gao Xiaolong. Gao Xiaolong is a disciple of the Nine Heaven Palace. He must have some connections in the Nine Heaven Palace. With his help, wouldn't it be easier to enter the Nine Heaven Palace? Tantai smiled. So that's how it is. Qin Rushuang suddenly understood. She looked at Qin Feiyang and smiled. In other words, you're trying to curry favor with others? Can you not make it sound so bad? This is not a waste of resources. Qin Feiyang was speechless. Yes. What you said makes sense. Qin Rushuang rolled her eyes and frowned. But I'm thinking, is this necessary? Father has such a high status in the Nine Heaven Palace. As long as we show our identity, won't the people of the Nine Heaven Palace come to welcome us? You're thinking too simply. As the saying goes, the tallest tree in the forest will be destroyed by the wind. Our ancestor was so talented that he must have aroused the jealousy of many people. Moreover, we don't know what's going on with our ancestor. So, at this time, if we reveal our identity in advance, it might backfire. Qin Feiyang said. Rushwang, do you see? This is the brain. Every time you do something, you have to consider all aspects. Otherwise, one wrong step will result in your death. Tantai said. Qin Rushwang pouted and said unhappily, Mother, continue to praise him. Be careful not to praise him to the heavens. All right. Feiyang, do as you see fit. Send us to the castle. Tantai smiled. Okay. Qin Feiyang nodded. With a wave of his hand, the two disappeared. Then, he released his perception and a cold smile crept up the corner of his mouth. Somewhere in the desert. As the old patriarch ran for his life, he looked around in bewilderment. What the hell is this place? Other than the sandstorm, there was nothing. Are you tired? If you're tired, take a rest. Suddenly, a teasing voice sounded. The old patriarch's gaze trembled. He looked up and saw Qin Feiyang standing in the air with a playful look in his eyes. No, don't kill me, okay? The old patriarch knelt on the ground powerlessly, his face full of despair. Qin Feiyang crossed his arms in front of his chest, a cold light flashing in his eyes. Suddenly, he waved his hand and smiled. Don't worry, I won't kill you. Really? The old patriarch was surprised and happy. Of course. Qin Feiyang smiled and waved his hand. The power of rule force descended from the sky, forming a barrier and trapping the old patriarch inside. What kind of power is this? The old patriarch glanced at the barrier in surprise. Just stay here. When I need you, I'll come and find you. After saying so, Qin Feiyang flashed and disappeared. The old patriarch retracted his gaze, reached out his hand, and carefully touched the barrier. Immediately, a pressure from the soul rushed to his mind. He quickly retracted his arm, his face full of fear. I forgot one thing. This time, Qin Feiyang appeared again and glanced at the old patriarch's index finger. There was a black ring on his index finger. Qiankuan ring. Shua. Qin Feiyang stepped on the barrier and smiled. Give me your Qiankuan ring and your divine artifact. The old patriarch looked at the Qiankuan ring and hesitated, his face full of reluctance. He didn't care much about the Qiankuan ring. What he cared about was the treasures in the Qiankuan ring. Hurry up! Qin Feiyang shouted. Yes. The old patriarch nodded, took off the Qiankuan ring and handed it to Qin Feiyang. Qin Feiyang grabbed it in his hand and said, There's also a divine artifact. The old patriarch hurriedly said, I have a divine artifact, but it's not with me now. Then who has it? Qin Feiyang frowned. The old patriarch didn't dare to say. Qin Feiyang looked at the old patriarch, his eyes flashing slightly, and said, Your divine artifact should be the fire dragon divine sword. No, the old patriarch shook his head. His divine artifact was actually the fire dragon divine sword. The reason why he denied it was because he was afraid that Qin Feiyang would find trouble with Guosweki. Fire dragon divine sword. High-grade divine artifact. To be honest, I don't like it. Qin Feiyang smiled disdainfully, took out a spirit sea pill, threw it to the old patriarch, and disappeared without a trace. The old patriarch was stunned. Why did he give him the spirit sea pill? Wasn't he afraid that his chi sea would recover and break the barrier and escape? The land of the demons. The herb field. Fire Lotus and Gao Shaohui sat in the courtyard of the herb field, chatting and laughing, and got along very well. Gao Shaohui looked outside the courtyard at the swaying herbs and said in surprise, Fire Lotus sister, such a big herb field, is it all yours? Yes. Fire Lotus nodded. Gao Shaohui said, Then where is this place? And why are you wearing a mask? This place. Fire Lotus looked around and said with a smile, A very magical place. As for the mask, it's because I'm too smelly, and I don't want to scare people. Gao Shaohui was stunned and said helplessly, Fire Lotus sister, you didn't say anything. What are you talking about? You look so happy. Qin Feiyang appeared in the courtyard and looked at the two with a smile. Gao Shaohui immediately stood up and stared at Qin Feiyang, a trace of vigilance creeping up her face. I say, Miss Shaohui, this is your fault. Am I that scary? Staring at me like this the moment you arrived? Besides, don't forget that I'm your savior. Qin Feiyang was displeased. Who knows if you have an ulterior motive for saving me? Chapter 1937. Is there a need to ask? Contact your elder brother immediately. Qin Feiyang said. Yes, yes, yes. Gao Xiaohui nodded, but her face suddenly stiffened. She looked at Qin Feiyang and said bitterly, my Qinkuan bag and image crystal were destroyed by the Guo family. I can't contact my elder brother. Qin Feiyang frowned. When he was at the volcano, he seemed to have heard Guo Sueki and the black-clothed man say that Gao Xiaohui and Gao Guofeng's Qinkuan bags and Qinkuan rings were destroyed. This was a bit difficult. Qin Feiyang asked, is there no one else who can contact your elder brother? No. Those who can contact my elder brother have been killed. Gao Xiaohui shook her head. Qin Feiyang pondered for a while and said, it seems that we can only go to the Ninth Heaven Palace first and find a way to find your elder brother. Then let's go quickly. Gao Xiaohui urged. Qin Feiyang's eyes flashed slightly and said, before we set off, I still need to do something. What is it? Gao Xiaohui was suspicious. It has nothing to do with you. Qin Feiyang glanced at her indifferently. With a wave of his hand, an image appeared in the void. In the image, Guo Zixiong stood in front of the bed, looking at the bloodstains on the bed with a gloomy face. Swish! Suddenly, a woman in red appeared next to Guo Zixiong out of thin air. Looking at this woman, Gao Xiaohui's eyes flashed with hatred. Because this woman was Guo Sueki. Father, what's going on? As soon as Guo Sueki appeared, she saw the bloodstains on the bed and asked Guo Zixiong, I don't know either. Just now I was going to look for Qin Feiyang. But suddenly I heard your grandfather scream. When your second uncle and I rushed here, there was nothing but these bloodstains. Guo Zixiong shook his head. What about grandfather? Guo Sueki's face turned pale and asked. He's also missing. Guo Zixiong clenched his hands and shouted, damn bastard, who is it? Come out. Missing. Could it be the same person who saved Gao Xiaohui? If that's really the case, then what is his motive for saving Gao Xiaohui and now kidnapping Grandpa? Guo Sueki muttered. Not good. Suddenly, Guo Zixiong exclaimed and immediately turned to run downstairs. Guo Sueki was stunned for a moment before she hurriedly followed him. Qin Feiyang also controlled the Black Tortoise realm and quietly flew down. When he arrived at the hall on the first floor, Guo Zixiong glanced around and walked straight to a vase. Then he gently turned the vase. Crack! The ground in the corner of the hall slowly split open, revealing a dark passage. Following closely, Guo Zixiong and his daughter entered the passage. Brother, where does it lead to? Fire Lotus asked suspiciously. The Guo family's treasure vault. The corners of Qin Feiyang's mouth lifted slightly. He controlled the Black Tortoise realm and flew in. So this is what you want to do. Fire Lotus suddenly smiled. Gao Xiaohui couldn't help but size up Qin Feiyang and his daughter. She asked suspiciously, what grudge do you have with the Guo family? You won't even let go of the treasure vault. Qin Feiyang laughed. We just came out of seclusion. What grudge could we have with the Guo family? We are helping you vent your anger. Gao Xiaohui was stunned. They were not related to her, helping her vent her anger? That's bullshit. The secret passage was not long. Soon they saw a stone door in front of them. The stone door was tightly shut and emitted a strong aura. Guo Zixiong ran to the stone door and pressed down on a stone brick beside the stone door. The stone door immediately opened. A secret room about 100 feet wide appeared in front of them. Inside the secret room, there were rows of iron shelves neatly placed on top of which were thousands of Qinkuan bags. So many Qinkuan bags, how many treasures are there? Fire Lotus was dumbfounded. Apart from the Qinkuan bags, there were also some knives, spears, sticks, jade boxes and iron boxes. Gao Xiaohui snorted. How can the Guo family have so many treasures? Half of the treasures here belong to the Gao family. You are from the Gao family? Fire Lotus was stunned. Qin Feiyang laughed. Fire Lotus, think about it. After the Guo family gets rid of the Gao family, will they let go of the Gao family's treasure vault? Fire Lotus was slightly taken aback and laughed. Looks like we are quite lucky to get the treasures of two families. Qin Feiyang was also full of smiles. There must be a lot of soul stones and divine crystals here. Wait. Didn't you say you would help me vent my anger? But why does it sound like you want to take all the treasures here? Gao Xiaohui hurriedly said. Qin Feiyang said. Since we are here, we must take them all. No. If you are helping me vent my anger, then you should return the treasures to the Gao family. Gao Xiaohui said. Qin Feiyang and Fire Lotus were stunned. Return? Was this woman really that naive? How could she think like that? Qin Feiyang said with a smile. Miss Xiaohui, don't think too much. The things here have nothing to do with you. You, Gao Xiaohui glared at Qin Feiyang. This bastard was a bandit. In the secret chamber. Guo Zixiong checked around and finally let out a long breath. He looked at Guo Sueki and smiled. Fortunately, nothing is missing. Let's go out and find your grandfather. Okay. Guo Sueki nodded. The father and daughter turned and walked out of the treasure vault. After closing the stone door, they left directly, unaware that the person they were looking for was in the treasure vault. The treasure vault. Qin Feiyang was standing in front of an iron shelf, holding a Qingkuan bag and looking down. Fire Lotus was also holding a jade box in her hand, looking curiously at the things inside. Gao Xiaohui looked around, her eyes darting around. Suddenly, her eyes were fixed on a row of iron shelves behind her. On the third level of the iron shelf, there was a black iron box, about the size of a palm, rusty and inconspicuous. But looking at the iron box, Gao Xiaohui's eyes lit up. She glanced at Qin Feiyang and Fire Lotus. Seeing that both of them had lowered their heads, she pretended to be indifferent and walked to the iron shelf, reaching out to grab the iron box and quietly put it in her arms. What are you doing? But just when she thought that no one would notice, Qin Feiyang's suspicious voice sounded behind her. Gao Xiaohui's body stiffened. She slowly turned her head around and saw that Qin Feiyang was already standing behind her. At that moment, he was looking at her with a pair of ridiculing eyes. I didn't do anything? Although Gao Xiaohui tried hard to remain calm, there was still a hint of panic in her expression. Nothing. But why do I see that you seem to be holding an iron box? Qin Feiyang said teasingly. When Gao Xiaohui heard this, she subconsciously covered her chest. Wasn't this equivalent to confessing without being pressed? But when Gao Xiaohui realized this, it was already too late. Qin Feiyang stretched out his hand and said with a smile, It's not good to be a thief, hand it over. Do you have any shame? You're obviously a thief, and you still have the cheek to say that to me? Besides, there are so many treasures here. What's wrong with me only taking an iron box? Gao Xiaohui's almond-shaped eyes widened in anger. She was about to go crazy from anger. Since there are so many treasures, why didn't you take anything else but that inconspicuous iron box? And you didn't even look at it before putting it in your arms. What does this mean? It means that you know this iron box and know what's inside? In other words, this iron box is from the Gao family. Qin Feiyang's teasing expression became even more obvious. Facing Qin Feiyang's gaze, Gao Xiaohui could no longer hide the panic in her heart. Who exactly is this man? How could she have seen through so much with just these insignificant actions? Don't test my patience. Even the old patriarch is no match for me, not to mention you. Hurry up, Qin Feiyang said with a smile. Big brother, I beg you, just give me this iron box. Is there really nothing in this iron box? Gao Xiaohui looked at Qin Feiyang pleadingly with a pitiful look. If the hard way didn't work, then he would use the soft way. Chapter 1938. Qin Feiyang didn't say anything. He just looked at her with a smile. She wouldn't budge. Seeing this, Gao Xiaohui decided to act shamelessly. She stuck out her chest, raised her back, and glared at Qin Feiyang. Search me if you dare. Hey, do you think I don't dare? After Qin Feiyang finished speaking, he grabbed Gao Xiaohui's arm with one hand. His other hand reached into Miss Gao's bosom with lightning speed and took away the metal box. You, Gao Xiaohui was dumbfounded. Then, her cheeks turned red. Bastard hooligan, how dare you ruin my innocence, you scoundrel. I'll kill you. However, just as Gao Xiaohui pounced towards Qin Feiyang with bared fangs and brandished claws, Huolian stepped in front of Qin Feiyang. With bone-chilling coldness in her eyes, she coldly said, Miss Gao Xiaohui, don't push your luck. Looking at Fire Lotus's eyes, Gao Xiaohui couldn't help but feel a sense of fear. She felt as if she was facing the god of death. This was completely different from the fire lotus she had seen before. Hualien had always been very kind and gentle, which made Gao Shaohui think that Hualien was a docile and obedient girl. So when she suddenly saw the other side of fire lotus, she couldn't accept it for a while. As for Qin Feiyang, he simply ignored Gao Shaohui and directly opened the metal box. Inside, there was a green ring that looked like it was carved out of a piece of jade. It was bright and shone with divine light. Qin Feiyang took out the ring and looked at it curiously. He found that it was an interspatial ring. An interspatial ring could only be opened and used after it was owned by a drop of blood. Qin Feiyang glanced at Miss Gao and entered the Black Tortoise realm alone. He cut his finger and a drop of purple gold dragon blood fell on it. Immediately, the interspatial ring emitted wisps of blurry purple gold light. He had to keep the fact that he had the purple gold dragon blood a secret for now. After Qin Feiyang recognized him as the owner, he immediately checked the Cosmos ring. When he saw the things inside the Cosmos ring, a trace of pleasant surprise appeared on his face. The interspatial ring was filled with soul stones. He estimated that there were at least 3,000 to 4,000 of them. No wonder Gao Shaohui wanted the metal box so badly. It turned out that there were so many soul stones hidden inside. Whoosh! After Qin Feiyang sent the soul stone to the castle, he took a look at the old patriarch's interspatial ring. Aside from some pills, there were also a few hundred soul stones. There were more than 2,000 divine gems. Qin Feiyang also sent them to the castle. He would count them when he had time. Subsequently, with the emerald interspatial ring in his hand, he reappeared in the treasury. As soon as Qin Feiyang appeared, Gao Shaohui stared at the interspatial ring in his hand. Fire Lotus asked suspiciously, "Brother, what's inside?" 3,000 to 4,000 soul stones. Qin Feiyang smiled. "So that's how it is," Hualien said with a smile. Qin Feiyang said, "Let's see if there are any other soul stones." "Okay." Fire Lotus nodded. The two of them immediately got busy. They checked while sweeping through the items. Of course, they only checked briefly. After all, there were so many interspatial bags and boxes. If they counted them one by one, they didn't know how long it would take. Gao Shaohui, on the other hand, could only watch angrily the whole time. In the end, the entire treasury was swept clean by Qin Feiyang and Fire Lotus. Most of the items in the interspatial bags were herbs. The jade box and the metal box were mostly battle arts and divine arts. And the sabers, spears, sticks were also divine artifacts. However, there weren't many divine arts or divine artifacts in them. Of course, they wouldn't know the details until they counted them. They also found a lot of divine gems, at least 100,000, but they didn't find a single soul stone. In other words, there were only 3,000 to 4,000 soul stones in the entire treasury. "Miss Shaohui, there are thousands of villages under your Gao family and Guo family's rule. They give you offerings every year. This number is not small. But why are there only so few soul stones you have accumulated over the years?" Qin Feiyang walked to Gao Shaohui and frowned. "What do you know? Both of our families have dozens of war gods and hundreds of false gods. Each of them needs soul stones. The soul stones handed over by those villages aren't enough for us, so it's not easy to accumulate 2,000 to 3,000, 3,000 to 4,000. Gao Shaohui snorted. "That's true." Qin Feiyang nodded, thought for a moment and said, "Then this time why did you two families want to fight?" "The Guo family provoked the battle. According to our investigation, it seems that the Guo family gave the soul stones to someone and didn't have any savings, so they wanted to challenge our Gao family. The loser will hand over all their savings and territory," Gao Shaohui said. "I see." Qin Feiyang was enlightened. Fire Lotus snickered. "Qin Dage, so you're the fuse of this battle." "Me?" Qin Feiyang was dazed. "Yes. Didn't you hear what Gao Shaohui said? The Guo family challenged the Gao family because they gave the soul stones to someone?" Fire Lotus thought. Qin Feiyang was shocked. Then he couldn't help but smile wryly. Thinking about it, it did seem to be the case. The Guo family gave the soul stones to him, so they must be looking for soul stones, so they targeted the Gao family. Fire Lotus smiled and said, "You don't have to blame yourself because the Guo family and the Gao family are the same. That makes sense." Qin Feiyang smiled and glanced at the treasury again. Seeing that there was nothing left, he threw the yin and yang ring to Fire Lotus. What are you? Fire Lotus caught the yin and yang ring with a shocked expression. Qin Feiyang smiled and said, "You've been running all over the place with me. No matter what, I have to give you some compensation." Compensate? Fire Lotus was stunned, then she teased, "Aren't you afraid that your sister-in-law will be jealous?" Jealous? How is that possible? Your sister-in-law is knowledgeable, gentle, and considerate. Qin Feiyang smiled and took the two back to the Black Tortoise realm. Then he used the Black Tortoise realm to break through the secret chamber, rushed out of the underground and flew into the sky. The attic also shattered with the sound. Fire Lotus gladly accepted the gift. However, Gao Xiaowei, who was standing at the side, was extremely displeased, because the yin and yang ring belonged to the Gao family. After Qin Feiyang left with the Black Tortoise realm, Guo Zixiong and Guo Sueki both landed in the sky above the courtyard. Looking at the destroyed pavilion and the large hole in the ground, his entire body emitted a monstrous murderous aura. Then, the two of them entered the treasure vault through the hole. Looking at the empty treasure vault, the anger in their hearts instantly exploded. The treasury had actually been ransacked. Sueki, give the order immediately. No matter who they are, no matter where they are, find them and make them pay. Guo Zixiong roared. Yes. Guo Sueki nodded, glanced at the treasury and left with a gloomy face. P.S. Late update, late blessing. I wish everyone a happy Lantern Festival. By the way, there are 3 chapters tomorrow.